Only the children of light is gonna understand this.
For there are three philosophical sects among the Jews, the followers of the first of which are the Pharisees, of the second, the Sadducees, and the third sect, which pretends to a severer discipline, are called the Essenes. These last are Jews by birth, and Jews by birth.
This is the knowledge of the Essene brotherhood. This is the knowledge of the Essene brotherhood. This is the knowledge of the Essene brotherhood. Taking it back to the way it was in the beginning.
All right. Peace and blessings, peace and blessings, peace and blessings, peace and blessings. Happy Sabbath, happy Sabbath, happy Sabbath. Shabbat Shalom, Shabbat Shalom, Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.
First and foremost, I want to say all praises be unto the Most High Almighty, Ahaya Yeshaya Christ, our Lord, our God, our Savior, who the world calls Jesus Christ. This is the Essene Community Church of Christ. My name is Archbishop Shamar.
And I'm Bishop Mike Allah.
And we be bringing forth today's Sabbath lesson / report. All right, once again, we're going to be going into the calendar, all right, of the world, all right, and the calendar that the Most High has instituted. We're going to get to the bottom of how did we get to the calculation of time that we have, and how did they get to the calculation of time that the world has. And we're going to see that all of these things ties right back to the scriptures, ties right back to the Bible, ties right back to the knowledge of the Most High. All right, so we know that there's people that have a lunar calendar, there's people that have solar calendar, there's people that have a luni solar calendar. All right, there is Chinese calendar, there's Hindu calendar, right? There's Jew calendar, right? There's Christian calendar. A lot of people don't know that the calendar they're on, they might not deal with the faith, but the calendar that they're on, that the world deals with, that when you send your business stuff, is all Christian. All right, this is a Christian calendar that you're dealing with when you're talking about the calendar that you're used for trade. When you're going to write down, hey, I sold this on that day at this time at that something. All right. Somebody might not understand that even though you're denying the faith of being Christian, you're operating on that time all the time. All right. Some nations have it where they use their own calendar in their land. All right. Chinese calendar. You have the Iranian calendar. I think they're at year 1500 or something like that. All right. So we're going to go into understanding on our calendar. All right. The calendar that the Most High has instituted and gave to the prophets. All right. So once again, this is the secret of the times, the Essene Christian solar calendar and New Year. We're going to be going to a plethora of information concerning that. We also have an exam to test people's knowledge and retaining this information after as well. All right. So with all being said, we hope wisdom is sent out to all so that all can comprehend and come on one accord with the understanding. All right, so with that being said, we're going to go to Isaiah 5:20.
Okay. It's the book of the prophet Isaiah, chapter 5, verse 20. Woe unto them that call evil good and good evil, that put darkness for light and light for darkness, that put bitter for sweet and sweet for bitter.
All right. So woe unto them, all right, that put light for darkness. All right. You can just let them see the pictures as well. All right. So woe unto them. Woe unto them. And we're starting this first. All right. Because you're going to see that as we go into the calendar and the telling of time, a lot of people didn't pay attention to this woe. All right. It says, woe, woe unto them that call evil good and good evil. All right. So woe to them that are calling evil good and good evil. All right. That put darkness for light. So if you're gonna say darkness is light, this is a woe. All right, this scripture is just warning you of this great woe and destruction. All right, and light, all right, and put bitter for sweet and sweet for bitter. All right, so they put darkness for light and light for darkness. They put bitter for sweet and sweet for bitter. They've confused things. They've changed the order of things when it concerns the law of nature. All right, God said darkness is dark. All right, and they're changing it and they're calling it light. So they're changing the order of things. All right, and God says a big woe. All right, the scripture says a big woe unto them that call evil good, good evil, that put darkness for light. All right, we're going to see that a lot of people are putting darkness for light. All right, and once you do that, that trajectory goes into your whole mind, and the whole characteristic of the things that you're doing starts to change, and you start to switch things for light. All right, darkness for light with certain things, and we're going to see that. All right, so we're going to go into the history of the calendar as according to how the Most High gave it and brought it to the children of Israel. All right, so we're going to start with them, their history, when God was telling them how to tell time. How did God issue it to them? How did he institute it to them? What did he say to them? All right, so we're going to go into the Old Testament. We're going to go to Exodus 12 and 1.
It's the book of Exodus, chapter 12, verse 1. And the Lord spake unto Moses and Aaron in the land of Egypt, saying, This month shall be unto you the beginning of months. It shall be the first month of the year to you. Speak ye unto the congregation of Israel, saying, In the 10th day of this month they shall take to them every man a lamb, according to the house of their fathers, a lamb for an house.
All right. So here we're seeing in Exodus, the Most High speaking to them, all right? And he's saying to them, speak on to Moses and Aaron in the land of Egypt, saying, all right, this month shall be the beginning of months to you. So when God came to the children of Israel, the first thing he started to do is show them how to tell time around them. And he started to tell them this month that I'm coming to you. All right. It's going to be the first month for you of the year to you. All right. Speak unto the children of Israel, saying, in the 10th day of this month, they shall take them every man a lamb. So on the 10th day of this month, he starts to instruct them on what to do in this first month. So on the 10th day of the first month, they would start to take out a lamb in that month. So when God is coming and reintroducing himself to the children of Israel, the first thing he's doing is telling them when to start the month. All right. And this is key because when we go to see when we start our months and things of that nature, you're going to be like, this is weird. The Most High comes, he tells the children of Israel when to start their month. But now the world, they're on a different time. All right. So this is why he came and tell them to remember this is the beginning of months. So obviously at these times we would know that there'd be people that wasn't starting their months at this same time too. It wasn't general knowledge. All right. Because if he has to tell the children of Israel that, most likely they weren't even doing that in Egypt. All right. Because they would already known that in Egypt. All right. So this is the beginning of months. All right. And they're told on the 10th day to take out a lamb. All right. All right, so what we also know when God is given the time, he doesn't say what day of the week this is. All right. So he doesn't tell you what day of the week this is. It's supposed to happen on. All right. The month begins on. He just tells them this is the beginning of the month on the 10th day as well. Hey, take out a lamb. He doesn't say what day the 10th day happens on, what day of the week specifically. All right. So we're going to go into the Hebrew and understand what is the meaning of month when he's saying month.
This is the word month in the Hebrew. This is Hebrew 23:20. This is Kodesh or Kadesh from the Hebrew 23:18. The new moon, by implication, a month. Month, monthly, new moon.
All right. So new moon, month. All right. So it's month or new moon. And you're going to understand too that the word month comes from moon, and the moon is ever changing. So that word new moon, every time you see the moon, all right, or see a new month, see a month, you know it's going to be a new one. All right. So they have new moon and month tied together under one word in the Hebrew, which is Kadash. All right. Kodash. All right. Which is month or new month. All right, continue for us.
All right. This is Hebrews 23:18. This is Kadash.
All right, and this is the actual ancient word. So the first Kadash, that is the Yiddish, what the Jews, right, the Jewish, I should say, would write it and say it today. The Kadash at the bottom is the origin word. So this is the original Hebrew that they would have pronounced it. All right, but continue.
Kadash, a primitive root, to be new, causatively to rebuild, renew, repair.
All right, so to be new, causatively to rebuild, to renew, repair. All right, so this word for month meant renew, repair, or rebuild. So each month, it's a renewal. Each month, they call it a renewal. All right, but there's certain months that we pay attention to that have important renewals. All right, and that's what we're going to see. So every month, and it's the same thing as every day is a renewal. All right, but these are small renewals. The month is a major renewal. All right, so it's a major, hey, we're on a new month. All right, it's a renewal of a order of months and days under that. All right, so we're going to go to Exodus 13:3.
It's the book of Exodus, chapter 13, verse 3. And Moses said unto the people, remember this day in which ye came out from Egypt, out of the house of bondage. For by strength of the hand of the Lord brought you out from this place. There shall no leavened bread be eaten.
You forgot that.
Oh, you want me to read?
Yeah.
Okay. 4. This day came ye out in the month Abib.
Yeah, no, that's verse 4.
Okay. All right. Abib. This is the Hebrews 24. Abib. From an unused root meaning to be tender, green. That is a young ear of grain. Hence the name of the month Abib or Nisan. Abib, ear, green, ears of corn.
All right. So we're seeing here, right, that Moses said unto the people, remember this day in which you came out of Egypt. So again, not only did God tell them, hey, this is the beginning of months for you. Moses also comes and tells them, remember this day in which you came out of Egypt, out of the house of bondage. All right, for the strength of the hand of the Most High brought you out from this place. You shall no leavened bread be eaten. This day you came out in the month Abib. All right. So he's letting them know, remember this day, remember this month, remember the importance of this is the time, or the time as well, that you came out of bondage. All right. Your freedom in bondage is connected to this renewal. All right. This year, this beginning of months. All right. And this is what Moses is telling them not to forget. And we're going to see that as we go along, even to our society right now, they're forgetting these key things because this is an important first month because of all the events that transpire within it. All right. So we went to the Hebrew definition for Abib. All right. And it means green. That is young ear of grain. All right. Meaning to be tender. So this was the original name for the month. The months are numbered, not named. But when they did give it a name, they were giving it a name according to what was happening in that month. So in this month, the green ears of corn, right, were starting to come out. All right. So this is why they called the month Abib. But continue for us.
All right. This is Hebrew 24. This is from the Brown Driver Briggs. Abib. Fresh young barley ears. Barley. Month of ear forming. Of greening of crop. Of growing green Abib. Month of Exodus and Passover. March or April.
All right. So it says month of Exodus or Passover, March or April. All right. So there's still a question on when it exactly is. They have it March, April. That's because of all the different calculations of the time, which we're going to clarify, all right, today. All right. So we're going to go to the Easton's Bible Dictionary on Abib. All right. So let me see. Hold on before let me make sure the thing is showing clearly. Okay. Split the screen. All right. So Abib, give that for us.
All right. This is Abib from the Easton Bible Dictionary. An ear of corn, the month of newly ripened grain. Exodus 13:4, 23:15. The first of the Jewish ecclesiastical year, and the seventh of the civil year. It began about the time of the vernal equinox on the 21st of March. It was called Nisan after the captivity in Nehemiah chapter 2 verse 1. On the 15th day of the month, harvest was begun by gathering a sheaf of barley, which was offered unto the Lord on the 16th. Leviticus 23, verse 4 to 11.
All right, so the Easton's Bible Dictionary tells us what Abib is. All right, it's an ear of corn, the month of newly ripened grain. All right, so this newly ripened grain is showing that it's spring. All right, this is the first of the Jewish ecclesiastical year. So the Jews understand this month to be the first of the ecclesiastical year. All right, and it's the seventh, all right, of the civil year. All right, and it's the seventh of the civil year. All right, the first of the Jewish ecclesiastical and seventh of the civil year. All right, and it began about the time of the vernal equinox on March 21st. So once again, this is according to their calculations, but they have it here that this month begins about the time in March. So you're going to see that the calendar that the world is using, all right, is not lined up with this calendar. As at the coming to the end of this month, you're seeing that this month is now beginning. All right, this new month, this new year is now beginning. All right, and the Jews had called it Nisan, all right, in their captivity. All right, so they had called it Nisan in their captivity. All right, so we're going to go to the equinox etymology. All right, so it said it began about the time of the vernal equinox. So it's well known that this month was associated with the equinox, the vernal equinox, as there's two equinoxes, all right? But the vernal equinox, we're going to see, is the spring equinox, the one for spring, all right? And there's one in fall. You're going to see that the Ethiopians, they celebrate the vernal equinox in the fall. So that starts their new year, all right? But continue for us.
This is the etymology of equinox. Equinox, a noun from the 1400s, a point at which the sun crosses the Earth's equator, making day and night the equal length everywhere. From Old French, equinoxe, from the 12th century, or directly from medieval Latin, equinoxium, equality of night and day. From Latin, equinoctium, usually in plural, dies equinocti, the equinoxes. From equus, equal, see equal, which is an adjective, plus nox, which is genitive of noctis, night. The Old French translation was ifnit, related equinoctio, also from the 1400s. Equinox equals equal night and day.
All right, so equinox, all right, point at which the sun crosses the Earth's equator. That's how they have it, all right, making day and night of equal length everywhere. All right, the equality of night and day. All right, so equinox, it means equal night, but if it's equal night, then it's equal day. But the word equinox strictly means just equal night, even though it's equal night and day. The origin of the word equinox, all right, which the equi and the nox is equal night.
I want to touch too. In Ethiopia, September will be considered the beginning of their spring because they have drought season prior to that. So September will be considered spring over there. So that's why their new year will be September over there, around September or the fall time. So it's not necessarily fall over there. It's their beginning of their spring over there. So I just wanted to add that.
Okay, con. So that time, or that's why they say, especially in Africa, their seasons are different, right? Yeah. So those over that side, their seasons are different than ours. They transpire at different times than ours. So once again, while we're going into our winter, they're going into their spring. All right. All right, so that picture there, you can see what kind of happens on the flat earth there, right? That you're going to have as much sunshine on one end as much light on the other, all right? Making it equal. For it to be equal, then we believe that we are on a circle that's going to have to be half and half. All right, so it's going to have to be half and half. All right, so when they're saying equal night and day, they're saying the earth is split, perfectly in half, and there's half night and half day. All right, done equally. So we're gonna go into the history of the equinox.
This is the history and cultural significance of equinoxes. Equinoxes and the changing of the seasons. For many cultures, the arrival of the spring and fall equinoxes marks important times of renewal and change. In many northern cultures, the spring equinox marks the beginning of the growing season, whereas the fall equinox marks the beginning of the harvest season. In many southern cultures, the reverse is true. The spring equinox signals the beginning of the dry season, and the fall equinox signals its end.
All right. So once again, all cultures observe the equinox. All right. Whether they don't deal with it as starting their year or whatever, they celebrate the coming in of these things, and as well as solstices, as you're going to see. All right. So many cultures at the arrival of spring and fall equinoxes mark important times of renewal and change. So you're going to see that the nations, they used to worship their gods during these times. All right. But God now, he came to Israel. He's telling them, hey, remember, I took you out of bondage this month. This is the reason of your celebrations in this month. All right. And he starts to tell them to celebrate on the 10th day. All right. So the spring equinox, once again, marks the beginning of growing season, where the fall equinox marks the beginning of the harvest season. All right. So give it to us again. All right.
Let's read it again. All right.
No, you can continue.
All right. The symbolism and meaning of equinoxes in different cultures. Equinoxes mark significant times of the year and are celebrated in different cultures. They also hold deeper significance and symbolism. During the equinox, the balance of day and night represents the balance of good and evil energies. The equinox is a time of reflection, planning, harmony, and balance for many cultures.
All right, so you're going to see that there's a lot of symbolism. So the reason why people celebrated the equinox, because they realized at the same time that there's equal parts day and night, is the same time that this day also represents an equal balance of good and evil. All right. If you ever heard of the yin and the yang, that symbol is a balance of good and evil. All right. All the other days, night and day, are not balanced together. All right. But on this day, they're balanced. So they use this symbolism the same way that we know at the coming of day that's a symbolism for taking away evil. All right. Because the night is gone and the light has came. The light has took away the darkness, and we know darkness is a representation of evil. All right. So on this day, they also celebrate perfect balance. All right. I can see men and women also celebrating this day, knowing that, hey, this day they should be in harmony. Them representing these two energies being balanced as well. All right. So the equinox also represents balance and harmony. All right. And we can see that because if day, right, which represents light, all right, is equal to the night, which represents darkness, then this is a balance happening of good and evil. They're balancing out each other on this day. All right, so we're going to go to Genesis 5:23.
It's the book of Genesis, chapter 5, verse 23. And all the days of Enoch were 365 years. And Enoch walked with God, and he was not, for God took him.
All right. So we're going to Enoch now because we're going to go into some of Enoch's records. And we're seeing that Enoch's days was 365 years. And you're going to see that this is actually where they're getting this, making your day, the year 365 days. All right. Off of Enoch and not off of Enoch's understanding. All right. But Enoch walks with God and he was not. God took him. And we're going to see that God took him because he had good understanding in certain things and God was pleased. All right, so continue for us.
All right. This is the book of Hebrews, chapter 11, verse 5. By faith, Enoch was translated that he should not see death, and was not found, because God had translated him. For before his translation, he had this testimony, that he pleased God.
All right, so by faith, Enoch was translated that he should not see death, and was not found. All right, because God translated him. All right. Before his translation, he had this testimony that he pleased God. So he was translated because the things that he was saying in his writings pleased God. And you're going to see that one of the main things in Enoch's writing was him calculating time and the calendar. All right. So this pleased God that God took Enoch. All right. So we're going to go into Enoch's records and just read about some of the things on his testimony that pleased God. All right. And once again, one of the main things that pleased God with his testimony was him being shown and given the understanding of the time. All right. And how to calculate time. All right. You can picture this as a movie that the angels came to Enoch, and Enoch is the first one that God took up, you could say in wings, and he showed him how the sun operates, how the stars operate. He brought him up into the sky. All right. So God showed him personally how these things work. All right. And by faith and testimony, and by us believing in the Most High, by the way he's given us these scriptures, we believe his testimony over, let's say, NASA, whose testimony constantly changed. How much time you see NASA tell you how different the earth look? All right. Right now, they're saying it's not even perfectly, spherical right now. It's what, oblate or some word that they use, but it's not a perfect circle. I think it's oblique. What is it? Let me see the word. It's opaque. Let me see the.
Not oval.
No. They have a new word for it.
Obligated or something.
Good. Let's see. All right. Oh, yes. That's what it's called. Oh, geode. All right. Sorry. It's a geode. They call it a geode. It's geode shape. All right. So it's not fully circle. That's what they say. All right. But once again, we can't believe their testimony because they constantly lying to us. This is why we believe, rather than believe the things that you're seeing in the class by Bill Nye the Science Guy and all of these different things. We're believing the scriptures that the Most High is constantly telling us to read, reproof, and showing us confirmation of these things.
I see it oblong. I think that's the word.
Oblong. Yeah, that's oblong. But no, there's a new one. They keep changing it. That's the one that I forgot the next guy was saying.
No, the geo goes into the same thing.
Oh,
oblong.
okay. It goes to the same thing? Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, but they say it's geode now. All right, so we're going to go into Enoch's understanding and see what he's seen as a witness. All right, because this is the Most High's witness, and we're seeing him tell us how things operate in terms of the calendar. So right, Enoch 72 and 32. And if you read the whole book of Enoch, it starts about Enoch 72 and it goes to like the 80th chapter. That whole thing, he breaks down him going and actually seeing the stars and all of that. So if you, and there's children here as well, youth here as well, you've been in class, they told you how much stuff, right? You should go and, read another account of somebody who said, you know what? This is what they seen when they went to technically space. This is how it operates. Compare that with what you're seeing in class, what the school is telling you. This is how you get to come to the full conclusion of the matter. You can see, oh, this is where they're getting this stuff from and that stuff from. All right. So the book of Enoch tells you about that. If you ever want to know, all right, let me challenge what the teacher's saying in science with the solar system and all of that. You go and you read the book of Enoch, starting at the 72nd chapter and going up to the 80th chapter. All right. But read chapter 72 for us.
Right. It's the book of Enoch, chapter 72, verse 32. On that day, the night decreases and amounts to 9 parts, and the day to 9 parts, and the night is equal to the day, and the year is exactly as to its days 364.
All right, so you're gonna see that in Enoch's time, it was there was 9 hours, all right, split apart for the days. In our time, it's 12 hours, all right, day, 12 hours night. In his time, it was 9 hours because they were stretching out the hours to 80-minute hours. All right, so when you hear this 9 parts, just understand it's 80-minute hours. That makes it 9 hours per, day and night instead of the 12 that we have because they stretched out the minutes to 80 instead of 60. All right. So it was 9 parts. All right. 9 hours day, 9 hours night on this specific day. All right. And it was the night is equal to the day and the year is exactly as to its day, 364. So you're going to understand that you're supposed to number your days or the year 364. All right. But what does school tell you? How much days did he tell you to put in your calendar? 365, right? They tell you that. Do you have a calendar? You have a calculator? All right. Give us 365. All right. Divided by 7.
64, 65 is the leap years.
Yeah, or 366, you mean, because of the leap year. All right. 365 divided by 7. What are you giving me? 52. Give me the rest of it.
52.1.
All right. Thank you. All right. Don't just 52. 52 points. So there's 52 weeks. You're supposed to have equal weeks. All right. But there's 52 weeks and then you have like how much hours of a week left, right? Or one day, right? So there's extra, and that's what's shifting your birthday all the time. What was your birthday this year?
The Monday.
It was on a Monday. What day does it fall on in the month? The 9th on a Monday. Next year, is it going to be the 9th on the Monday? No. Was it the 9th on the Monday last year? How? When are you born then? I can't celebrate your birthday, right? Get your birthday right and come back and we can celebrate it. All right? But you're seeing now, right? It's not divided equally. And even here, it's keep telling you equal night, equal. Things are supposed to equal out. You're seeing, you just did the calculation. There's no equaling. All right? It doesn't equal 52 weeks exactly. There's some hours of a day added onto it. All right? And that's what they do when they change it from 364 to 365. That's why your birthday is constantly changing when it should be Monday on the 9th every year. That's when you were born, right? Exactly. So how does it change all the time, right? So, but we're going to celebrate it next year on a different day. That's not really your birthday. There's an error going on, all right? So you need to understand that. But God told us to put 364. Now, put 364 in your calendar, in your calculator, and divide that by 7. Tell me now what you have. 52 perfectly. Oh my! So your birthday will never move. You know, if you follow that, it will never move. It will be the 9th Monday every year. All right. So we're showing you proper calculation. All right. So continue for us. All right. So we're at verse 33. Enoch 72 and 33.
All right, it's the book of Enoch, chapter 72, verse 33. It's page 7 of the document. It's verse 33. And the length of the day and of the night, and the shortness of the day and the night arise through the course of the sun. These distinctions are made. They are separated. So it comes that its course becomes daily longer, and its course nightly shorter.
All right, so the length of the day and the night and the shortness of the day and night arise through the course of the sun and these distinctions. So as the sun moves on this day, it's equal. As it moves, everything starts to change. All right, so the days become longer. All right, and the nights become shorter. And then eventually, as we're going to the winter, the days become shorter and the nights become longer until it reaches an equinox again. And then it comes equal, and then it does this whole thing again where it changes again. All right. So if you were to get up at sunrise, all right, if you're a sunrise chaser, you would see that constantly you're going to have to be chasing the sunrise because it's going to be moving all year, showing you that the hours are changing. All right. The amount of hours it's giving you for day or night is constantly changing every day. It never comes the same. All right. So this is why the equinox day is a big thing, because on this day, everything is equal out and it's the same. All right. So once again, New Year's Day, on New Year's Day for our calendar, on that day, we understand that day to be equal day and night. All right. And that shows that it's New Year's Eve. And the next year is New Year's Day. All right. So we're going to go once again to the book of Enoch, chapter 74. And we're going to just hear Enoch's understanding on the calendar again.
It's the book of Enoch, chapter 74, verse 12. And the sun and the stars bring in all the years exactly. so that they do not advance or delay their position by a single day unto eternity, but complete the years with perfect justice in 364 days.
All right. So the sun and the stars bring in all the years exactly. All right. So do not follow the moon. They're going to constantly tell you, hey, follow the moon. Look at how the moon changes. The moon is constantly changing and it's not on course with the time of God. So if you're looking at the moon, it's changing. It's doing its own thing all the time. God has told us the sun and the stars bring in all the years exactly. All right, so we have Bishop Harak. I'm pretty sure you guys, when he's out there in the nighttime, plenty of times he's showing you how to look at the stars. All right, the signs out there. These signs never change. They've never changed. You could go outside every day; it'll be the same. Same thing with the sun, but the moon is constantly going to be changing. All right, it's constantly changing. You don't know what it's doing. Even when you're following it, sometimes it could disappear and pop up back. This is why they have to make people watch it. They can't just say the moon is going to do this, just let it do its thing. They have to constantly watch. Because this month could be 28, could be 29. They have to watch for this moon crescent. All right. But continue for us.
This is the book of Enoch, chapter 74, verse 13. In 3 years, there are 1,092 days.
All right. So in 3 years, in the true calendar, there's 192 days. All right. Continue.
And in 5 years, 1,820 days.
All right. In 5 years, there's 1,820 days in a year. All right. Divide that. You're going to get the 5 years. All right. Continue for us.
So that in 8 years, there are 2,912 days.
All right. So Enoch is seeing this. So he's seeing in 8 years, there's going to be 2,912 days. All right. Continue for us.
For the moon alone, the days amount in 3 years to 1,062.
All right, so he's now showing the comparison. He's saying, I seen the moon, and in 3 years, it's 1,062 in comparison to the 3 years of the sun, that is 1,092. All right, and you have to understand that Enoch, at these times, he was old enough, once again, to be able to see all the movements of the star and the sun and being told by God. All right, and he's telling you now, hey, in 3 years, there's 192 days in the calendar complete, all right, in these 3 years. But when you're following the moon, it's 162, showing you that it's 30 days back in 3 years. All right, continue for us.
All right. For the moon alone, the days amount in 3 years, 1,062 days. And in 5 years, she falls 50 days behind.
All right. So in 5 years, the moon is falling 50 days behind. And this is where you're going to have to constantly see that. If you're following the moon, it's shifting everything as well. And you're going to see that they're not following it, the moon straight like how they were in these times, but they're still following the moon. And this is why they shifted to 365. And this is why your birthday is constantly making a little shift every year instead of the major shift that would happen that we're seeing here, 30 days off. And you're looking, hey, my birthday is not 30 days all the way into another month. So they thought by them making this calculation and putting it 365 and doing all of this, they were putting everything in order to be like, all right, it could shift a little, but it will reset back at some point in time. All right, this is what we're going to see.
Just going into what you said with the little shift and with your birthday, it's usually the following day. So if it's on a Monday next week or next year, it'll be like a Tuesday. It's
Yeah.
over 3 days.
Yeah, it's not 3 days or a jump. So this is we're gonna see that their calculation in science, they are like, you know what? We figured it out to not make it jump so much. Because it used to just, in 30 days, your birthday is 30 days behind. You would have been like, for real, it's not my birthday. Now you'd have been a joke. You'd have been like, you know what? I can see it's not my birthday. Right? But because it's the little shift, you're like, it was just 1 day off last year, right? It's just 1 day. Perfect, right? No, it's not perfect. All right. So this is what we're seeing. So continue for us.
All right. This is the book of Enoch, chapter 74, verse 15. All right, let me finish off verse 14. My apologies.
No, you don't have to read that part there.
Oh, the ending. I
Yeah,
didn't
yeah,
touch the ending.
No, you don't have to read that
No,
part.
okay,
Yeah,
that's
yeah.
not. Verse 15. And in 5 years, there are 1,770 days. So that for the moon, the days in 8 years amount up to 21,832 days. All the days she falls behind in 8 years are 80. And the years accurately completed in conformity with their world stations and the stations of the sun, which rise from the portals through which the sun, rises and sets 30 days.
All right. So once again, so in 3 years, it falls 30 days behind. So this is why you're going to see on the leap year, they add one day because they're saying that your birthday is shifting, so they have to add that one day to reshift it back in alignment. All right. When they were following the moon straight, all right, and some people do when they're the Jewish people do when they're just following only the moon. All right. In 3 years, it's 30 days off. So at the end of on the fourth year, they would add 30 days to their calendar. So they would add a whole month. All right. So this is why they had to change that, and they changed it to what it is now to adding the one leap year. And we're going to get to the whole science and history of that. All right. But it was changing so much that they had to add 30 days. And these are called intercalary days, days added to the calendar to reshift it back and align it back because it's out of sync. When God gave us a perfect calendar that never comes out of sync. All right. So once again, we're seeing why there's a day added, right, to the leap year every 4 years. All right. To the Jewish calendar, they would add 30 years. So while we're adding one on the calendar we're following now, the Jewish would add 30. They would add a whole month every 4 years. They would have a leap month. All right. So if you were born in that month, you wouldn't see that month again for another 4 years. All right. So this is what they had to do to keep up or try to keep up with the sun and the time that the calendar is on because of the constant shifting. All right. So continue for us. You're finished there. Okay. Yeah. So once again, just a reminder, the sun and the stars bring in the years exactly only. All right. The sun and the stars do not advance or delay their position. So they're not off. They don't move. They don't change. Nothing is changing. All right. The sun and the stars complete the year in a perfect 364-day cycle. And we're going to attack that number 364 in a second to see why is it 364. Everything got to make perfect sense that even you can understand it. No one has to tell you. You're going to be able to be like, I know that. I know why. Because everything is clear and it makes perfect sense. All right. So once again, the year is completed accurately by the sun. And on the 364th day of the year, there's a spring equinox that marks the equal day and night. All right. And that brings in the New Year's Eve. That then brings in the New Year's that's going to be on the Wednesday. All right. And once again, this calendar is known as the Enochian calendar. All right, so we have the Gregorian calendar. That's the calendar you follow. That's what the January to all of that. And then we have the Enochian calendar. This calendar is made by Enoch. That's the true calendar that has 364 days. When you divide that by 7, you'll get 52 weeks exactly. And no shifting of your birthday will ever happen once you're following the Enoch calendar. All right, so the next picture. All right, so let's go to the next picture. Right, is the vernal equinox. All right, so the vernal equinox, this is basically how the Enochian calendar is set up. So this would be your calendar we would put on there, and you could see it clearly where, all right, it's in a circle. They have the spring, mid-spring, late spring, the change of the seasons there, and all the months there showing you the 30 days. It shows you the vernal equinox. It shows you when the summer solstice will be coming. It shows you when the autumn equinox would happen. It brings you to the winter solstice, then it brings you back around. All right, so you're going to see that the calendar is a cycle. You're going to see that the year is a cycle. And this is why we're seeing the Enoch calendar is made in this form to show you it. All right, so give us Malachi 3 and 6. No, right here. Under this. Yeah.
It's the book of the prophet Malachi, chapter 3, verse 6. For I am the Lord, I change not.
All right, so God changes not. So his calendar doesn't change. If you were born on Monday on the 9th, you're always going to be born on Monday on the 9th. You're always going to celebrate that day, Monday on the 9th. Once something is changing, then you know, guess who you're not dealing with? You're not dealing with God. Yeah.
I just remember, like, in 2020, they were trying to add a 13th zodiac sign. And even if you look at the zodiac signs, they start in March. They don't start in January. They start in March.
Yes,
They
yes.
start on March 21st.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. So even this, which we told you, what doesn't lie? The stars don't lie, right? So they can change everything else. You look at the star, it's going to tell you what month you in, right? So correct. But what is missed correct is it's starting at March 21st. All right. They put that in there. So you'll learn today how they come with the March 21st. All right. Hopefully we get to that part today. All right. But it is in the lesson, if not next week. All right. So yes, so you can see the zodiac signs by watching the stars. This young man is able to see, hey, it actually does start in March, what they're saying, because I can see, hey, the zodiac signs start in March. Why are they not lined up with January? All right. Because they've changed something. All right. So we're going to go into understanding on the book of Jubilees. So this book as well gives us understanding on the calendar. All right. So we're going to go to the encyclopedia of the Bible, and it's going to give us a little understanding on what is this book of Jubilees that we're going to go in and read some information on.
This is Jubilees, the book of Jubilees, also known as the Little Genesis, Apocalypse of Moses, or the Testament of Moses, and other titles. A book generally included among the so-called pseudepigrapha, or of the Old Testament, a Halakhidic Midrash to Genesis, Exodus. The most common designation, Jubilees, refers to the fact that the book divides into Jubilee periods of 49 years, each the history of the world from the time of creation to the giving of the law on Mount Sinai in Leviticus 25. Israel entered Canaan, according to the author, at the close of the 50th Jubilee, which is 2,450 years after creation.
All right. So this book here, the book of Jubilees, is also known as Little Genesis. All right. So this is a little Genesis because it's telling you the history of the beginning, all of that in there. It's a little book of Genesis. It's actually what Moses used and gave us a little of the book of Genesis, but he didn't give us everything. So if you read the book of Genesis, you don't get the full Adam and Eve story. So you're like, where did Moses get the whole understanding on that? He didn't give you the full Adam and Eve story. He doesn't give you the full contents of some of the things in Genesis. All right, this elaborates further in this book. So this is why they call it Little Genesis, or Apocalypse of Moses, or Testament of Moses. All right. They generally try to say this book is pseudo, fake. All right. And you're going to see why they try to say that, because this goes against the calendar that they've given to the world. All right. Once again, the most common designation, Jubilees. Why is the book called Jubilees? Is because in the dividing up of the time, right, it's divided into 50-year increments. All right. So he's given history of 50-year increments and counting it out like that. And it shows you that Israel entered the land of Canaan, all right, close to the 50th Jubilee. All right. And they showed you that that's the 2,450 year after creation. All right, continue for us.
Israel entered Canaan, according to the author, at the close of the 50th Jubilee, which is 2,450 years after creation. The name Little Genesis was attached in some editions because the book is a reproduction of the canonical Genesis, with more details, however, than the biblical work, and extending to the narratives reported up to Exodus chapter 12. Much that is characteristic of the book is due to the use of other pseudos and ancient traditions of a Halakhic and Agadic character. Jubilees appears to be the work of one author who based his narrative on much older material. He interpreted earlier history in the light of the ideals of his own time, especially the emphasis on legalism. The book can be compared with the rewriting of 1st and 2nd Samuel and 1st and 2nd Kings in the work of the chronicler. The author tried to do with the traditions concerning the patriarchs and Moses what the author of Chronicles had done for the stories about Samuel and the kings of Israel and Judah. The patriarchs are presented in Jubilees as having been rigorous observers of the law, as it was understood during the time when the author lived. The work is closely related in spirit to writings like 1st Enoch and the older portions of the Testament of the 12 patriarchs, but also to the writings of the Qumran community. There is strong evidence to support the assumption that the author of Jubilees also belonged to this group.
All right, so they're showing us right now that the book of Jubilees, all right, is closely related to Enoch. And they're like, it's closely related to this group in Qumran. We know this group in Qumran, all right, the Essenes, all right. All right, strong evidence support that, hey, who wrote Jubilees also belong to the group of the Essenes, all right? Because they are dealing with the same knowledge and information that others aren't dealing with, all right? So this is what we're seeing, that the Essenes have a connection to the book of Enoch. The Essenes have a connection to the book of Jubilees. Why? Because all those teachings in there align with the Essenes, all right? We are the Essenes. That's why we go into the book of Enoch. That's why we go into the book of Jubilees, all right? But continue for us.
He may have been a priest because he exalted Levi over Judah. The writer seems to have been a supporter of the Maccabean pontificate, since he applied to Levi's successors the title first assumed by the Maccabean princes, priests of the Most High God. The book was in all likelihood written shortly before or around 100 BC in Palestine. Reasons given by some scholars for a much earlier date are not convincing and not generally accepted. A matter of much scholarly debate is the calendar for the festive season suggested in Jubilees. It seems quite likely that the Qumran community used the one claimed to be the law of God in this book, which was radically different from that calendar which was used by the Pharisees and Sadducees respectively. It is the evidence in particular which makes it likely that the author was not a Pharisee, but a Qumran covenanter. It is certain in any case that Jubilees influenced the community more than any other group in Judaism.
All right, so what we're seeing here, they're saying it's right, much debate that the calendar, the festive seasons suggested in Jubilees. There's debates about the calendar and suggested seasons given in Jubilees. All right, it's quite likely that the Qumran community used the one claimed to be right the law of God, which is in this book, which is different from the calendar used by the Pharisees and the Sadducees. And that's what we're saying is we use a different calendar in the world than the Jewish people might use or the other ones they use. But the difference is ours lines up with Enoch, Jubilees, and the people that God put before us, while theirs aren't. All right. And once again, this Qumran community, Qumran is down there by the Dead Sea over there in Israel. All right. Close to Israel, close to Jordan over there. All right. Where you can go and get the Dead Sea salt. You can go and get the bath. There's a lot of, what do they call it? What are the products? Body products and stuff used with the salt, Dead Sea salt. All right. So that community over there where the Dead Sea is. All right. This is where Qumran is. This is where the Essenes come from. All right. And these are people with high understanding that was dealing with God's true understanding. All right. So these Qumran covenanters, they were the ones dealing with the book of Jubilees. It was, they found it about 100 BC, all right, 100 years before Christ actually comes onto the scene. And then they found the book of Jubilees. Then they found the Dead Sea Scrolls that then had another book of Jubilees in there. But they're saying that this first one, which is a copy, had to have come from the Qumran community from earlier. All right. So we're going to go into the same book now, and we're going to go to chapter 6, and we're going to see what was told to Moses in regards to the calendar.
All right, this is the book of Jubilees, chapter 6, verse 30. Thus it is engraven and ordained on the heavenly tablets, and there is no neglecting this commandment for a single year or from year to year. And command thou the children of Israel that they observe the years according to this reckoning, 364 days, and these will constitute a complete year. And they will not disturb its time from its days and from its feasts, for everything will fall out in them according to their testimony. And they will not leave out any day nor disturb any feast.
All right, so look at what we're seeing here. God is telling us clearly. He says, command the children of Israel that they observe the years according to this reckoning. All right, so this is a command, children of Israel, youth, adults, children. When you go to the school and they're trying to tell you 365, how much days you going to tell them back? All right, what's going to be your reasoning behind them? What are you going to do to prove to them that this is what makes more sense? The math, correct, right? And my birthday doesn't shift when I'm doing it this way. All right, this is the correct way. The math is not mathing. All right, because according to God, he says, Right? Observe the years according to this record. In 364 days, this will constitute a complete year. They will not disturb its time from its days, from its feast. So your birthday, the time of your birthday, nothing will ever be disturbed. All right? Everything will fall accordingly. All right? They will not disturb its time from its days, from its feasts. Everything, all right, will fall out in them according to their testimony. So if you were born on the 9th on a Monday, every year on the 9th on the Monday, it's going to happen. Your birthday festival will never shift, will never change, will never move. All right. But if you don't follow this, it starts to shift, it starts to change, it starts to move. Why do they want to do this? I know there's people in here who do anime, all of this. In anime, they give you certain powers. If you do a certain thing, this power is going to be given to you. So we're supposed to come together, pray on certain days, bless on certain days. But if they mess up our calendar, how can we go and then get our power to be able to do what we're supposed to be doing? All right. How can we do that? We can't do that because what? They shifted the day. You can't go outside now and get the power from the sword and hear it talk to you and do it because it ain't on the day it's happening. All right. So to make you not have your power, what do they have to do? They have to change the day so that you, when you go outside, you can't find it to be like, all right, this is the day he said to do this on, to observe it. He'll bless me in this day by doing these things. All right. So you got to think, why would they, if it wasn't important, and then just leave it there and be like, all right, check it. All right. Nothing happened on that day. But they shifted it because they're like, yo, they don't want nothing to happen on that day. All right. So continue for us.
It's the book of Jubilees, chapter 6, verse 33. But if they do neglect and do not observe them according to his commandment, then they will disturb all their seasons, and the years will be dislodged from this order. And they will disturb the seasons, and the years will be dislodged, and they will neglect their ordinances. And all the children of Israel will forget and will not find the path of the years, and will forget the new moons and seasons and Sabbaths, and they will go wrong as to all the order of the years.
All right. So once again, he's saying, right? Right. But if they do neglect and do not observe them according to the commandment of God, then they will disturb all their seasons. All the years will be dislodged from its order. That's why people's birthdays is out of order. All right, because a birthday is a festival. All right, not your birthday. Your birthday is not the only festival that's happening. All the festivals change every year. All the dates get changed.
I was having a conversation with someone the other day, and in all my years being on the top of this earth, I've never seen Easter in March. But Easter falls in March this year. March 31st is Easter.
Oh wow.
This is crazy. I've never seen it ever happen. But it's March this year, which is crazy. And they're like, oh, well, I've never seen that too. And I was like, because they're changing things. That's the reason why. It's crazy. How can it be 1 month and every time it's changing? Like, it's a different day this month, but it's always in the same month.
It's always in the
different.
same month.
Yeah, it's always in the same month, but it's different now. It's in March. And I was like, that's crazy. It's way off.
And we're going to see why, because they're not only following the thing or the days, they got to follow the moon, they got to follow the equal. There's a whole bunch of things that's calculating that Easter date that they bring through every year. All right, so yes, it's constantly changing. But you know what the world does? You know, to do that, they just say, you know what? The first weekend in what is it? May, these days, all right, Mother's Day, this day, that day. They'll just say it's the first weekend. So if you're not focused on the date, you're focused on the day and the week that it comes in the month instead of the day. Right? What other day they do that for? Caravana. All right. When's Caravana? The first weekend of August every time. It never changes. All right. It never moves. It's stationary. They don't give you a date. They tell you first weekend August every year, expect it. All right, because they give you the date, they're going to have to change the date. It's not going to fall on the weekend. All right, they want it to happen on the weekend because Caravana got to happen on the weekend. So we see what they do. They're like, don't worry about the day. It's not August, this day, 2nd, 3rd. It's the first weekend, August, always Caravana. All right, and we know right after that weekend done, summer is done.
That's great.
Yeah, right. So that's how they go around that shifting of time to make sure their event stays. They just won't say it happens on this specific day. They just say, all right, second weekend, August, all the time. All right. Another day that they don't do that with, May 2-4 weekend. So May 2-4 weekend, sometimes it's not, May 2-4 is not even on that weekend. All right. May 24th. So those who don't know, May 24th, that's Victoria Day. All right. Queen Victoria for those in America. That day, we celebrate that May 24th. But on that weekend, it has to be on the weekend. But May 24th is not always on the weekend. So that messes up. So we'll be celebrating May 2 for our weekend. And then the 24th could be on the Wednesday or the Tuesday. All right. So this is the things that they try to do to offset the constant changing of the time with the festivals.
They'll give you a long weekend.
Yeah, they just give you a long weekend and stretch it out. They're like, hey, it's on the Wednesday anyways, right? We gave you a long weekend, so it's close. It's close enough, right? 1 day, 2 days, right? It's not 30 days like before. All right, so this is what we're seeing that they're doing to try to align all the dates. So continue for us.
For I know, and from henceforth will I declare it unto thee, and it is not of my own devising, for the book lies written before me, and on the heavenly tablets the division of days is ordained, lest they forget the feast of the covenant, and walk according to the feast of the Gentiles, after their error and after their ignorance. For there will be those who assuredly make observations of the moon, how it disturbs the seasons, and comes in from year to year 10 days too soon. For this reason the years will come upon them when they will disturb the order, and make an abominable day the day of testimony, and an unclean day a feast day. And they will confound all the days, the holy with the unclean, and the unclean day with the holy. For they will go wrong as to the months and Sabbaths and feasts and jubilees.
All right, so once again, he says what? They're going to go wrong to the order of all the years, all right, and not to their own devising, all right, because in the book he lies written before him, right, that they're going to forget the feasts of the covenant, and they're going to walk according to the Gentiles. Gentiles is other nations that are not believers, all right, to be specific, non-believers. When you see Gentiles, think of non-believers, because in the new covenant, Gentiles can be believers, all right, but they're not Gentiles anymore. They're Christians, all right, they believe, but Gentiles represents non-believers, people who don't believe, who usually would have been from another nation, because God only gave this information to Israel at that time, all right, and anybody else would have been considered a Gentile. All right, so we're going after, they're following all these other nations' error and ignorance in calculating time, and they're observing the moon, and when you observe the moon, your birthdays, the days are constantly going to shift, and they need to be fixed. Once again, God does not change. He is the Lord. He changed not. All right. God does not change. So neither will his calendar change. All right. Continue for us.
Verse 38.
All right. No, just to make it. So once again, it was coming in every year 10 days too soon. So make mention of this, because there was a big problem before where it was coming in 10 days too soon. Once again, every 3 years, 30 days is passed. They would have to come, and they would have on the 4th year, they would have to add 30 days, a leap calendar. They would have to add a leap calendar to it. All right. In contrast to now, your day is shifting. It's shifting a little, and this is why people are not really paying that much attention. And we're going to bring it to who came up with this math, because it was hard for it to do this. Someone came up with a math that they figured that this math is divinely inspired, and this is what influences our calendar today. But continue for us.
All right. This is verse 38. For this reason I command and testify to thee, that thou mayest testify to them. For after thy death thy children will disturb them, so that they will not make the year 364 days only. And for this reason they will go wrong as to the new moons and seasons and Sabbaths and festivals. And they will eat all kinds of blood with all kinds of flesh.
All right, so you're going to see as well what's associated with this calendar. When someone's not on the correct calendar, they're going to be looking at darkness as light. They're going to be eating flesh and blood under this calendar. So let's go and look at everyone who's using this calendar. None of them are going to be on the mind frame that we're on properly, because they can't interpret. All right. This calendar is associated with light, with righteousness. All right. This is why he's saying they're going to be dealing with another festival, other things, eating all kinds of blood with all kinds of flesh, because they're already dealing with the woe from the beginning. All right. They're all right, replacing light with darkness and darkness with light. People are eating something dead and saying they're going to get life. It doesn't, you get life from life, not death. All right, so this is what the switcheroo is happening. Why are you saying, look, they're eating all kinds of blood, all kinds of flesh under this. They're already switching around things and saying, you know what? You can get life from death, you know. All right. Only God can do that. All right. God can give you life from death through Christ. All right. And that's a miracle. That's through his power. Ain't no way you getting life from death. That's why he's showing he's God, because through death, he gave life. All right. When that, you don't usually get life from death. All right. Not in this world. In this world, you get something recycled. So from death could come something recycled, but that thing recycled is dead. It's gone. Just like your body gonna get recycled, put in the thing. Worms could eat it. It could be good for all of them, but it's gone. It ain't come back. All right. So we're gonna go to the moon. All right. We're just gonna look at understanding on the moon and how much days the moon has. All right. I'm sorry, the moon has 354 days. Salakia. All right, but continue for us.
The moon has 354 days and will never be aligned with the sun and stars perfectly. What is the difference between full moon and new moon?
All right, so what you're going to see as well is that the new moon for, yes? It's supposed to be on April 8th? The solar eclipse?
Yeah. Is that true? Like, what's that? Because it said it's supposed, according to, because it's supposed to be the new moon. It's going to happen on the new moon.
It's going to happen on the new moon. There is eclipses. Those things are true. So those things are right. But there's nothing that tells us that eclipse was supposed to happen on that day. They're calculating and seeing it's going to happen. But nothing's telling us, hey, God put it on this day. We have to follow it to make sure it was on a specific day. So it could fall on any day. We didn't really know, oh, it's on this day. It's happening on this day. Is it off? Is it supposed to be on another day? We don't really know. But they do tell us when it's going to happen. So they're able to calculate and tell us when it's going to happen. But yeah, there's nothing really mentions of it in the scriptures about the eclipse and following it as a sign for a festival for a specific day. All right. But once again, so for a new month, so the moon, all right, for new month, so when people follow the moon, they tell when a new month is by two ways. All right. Either, I'm pretty sure you guys see the crescent moon. All right. The crescent, the little small moon. Let me see if we can put it. The crescent moon. What is it on? Let's see. Crescent moon. It's a little moon. All right. Little moon sign, crescent moon, or full moon. All right. The world deals with crescent moon. So when the moon gets the little peak of light that you see come onto it, that's when they say is a new moon. All right. But then there's the scriptures that say the new moon is when it's a full moon. So it gets full again. Once again, the moon is full and then the month starts. All right.
Just there was one, I think it was on Sunday that went by. The crescent, that's when Ramadan started for.
Yes. So once again, Muslims, they deal with the lunar calendar. So when you hear, oh, they're in the month of Ramadan, how do they determine that? They looked for the crescent moon sign in the month and said, hey, they're now in the month of Ramadan. Now they're going to fast.
Also Lent. For Catholics.
Yes, Lent for Catholics. We're going to get down to that. Yes. So they're calculating off the moon as well for them as well. All right. You are absolutely correct. All right. So give us that information.
All right. What is the difference between full moon and new moon? The substantial difference is the illumination percentage of the side facing the earth. In the new moon phase, this percentage is 0% and becomes 100% at full moon, about 14 days later. Thanks to the regular repetition of these moments since ancient times, the lunar phases have been the basis of the lunar solar calendar. However, it was difficult to establish the exact moment of the new moon. Therefore, many ancient civilizations started the lunar month with the appearance of the first crescent after sunset.
All right. So once again, the lunar months was starting. They're following the moon. So when you see someone following the moon, you have to understand they're following the moon moon is associated with darkness, they're following what? They're following evil. That usually associated with evil. That's why God says, woe to them that are calling these things good and good evil. So they're following the moon and they're trying to tell you or give you information and knowledge on God or light that doesn't coincide with each other because they're following the moon. They're following darkness. All right. You're going to see that everything is symbolic. That's why we want to do things in a certain way. All right. If we're saying we're children of light, everything we doing has to show light. We're going to be in light. You want to be in white. You want to do all these different things. Yes, sir.
So they follow the creation, not the creator.
Yeah, because they're following. Well, I don't even know if they're following because the sun is in the creation too, right? So they're following their own way or what someone's telling them, or once again, they're just usually prone to following wickedness and evil, which is darkness.
Even if they're following someone else and it's leading them from the most side, they're still following the creation and not the creator.
Yeah, because they're not looking.
They still following the creation.
No. All right. So we have the full moon. We have the crescent moon. These are the signs that determine the starting of a month for those who follow the moon. So if people are following a moon calendar, they don't just number the days. They can't number the days when you follow the moon. When you follow the moon, you have to go outside. You have to physically see the signs because once again, the moon could change on you. So you can't just be like, all right, 30 days is going to do this. 28 days is going to do this. You have to go outside. You have to physically see what's going on. Because once again, in a year, an eclipse could happen. This could happen. The moon could change. All right. So they have to go and witness. All right. The moon gave that sign. It's a new month for them. All right. And those months are shortened to usually 28 days. So a moon month has 28 days, sometimes 29. It never has 30 days. So that's what comes. The year gets shortened by we get to the end of the year. All right. It's 10 days short because two of the months have 29 days. The rest of them have 28 days in them. All right. So we're going to go to Sirach 43 and 6. All right. So this is once again out the Apocrypha. The Apocrypha is supposed to be in the middle of your Bible. They took it out. All right. But it was put in there in 1611 when it was originally released by King James. All right. So continue for us.
All right, this is Sirach or Ecclesiasticus out of the Apocrypha, chapter 43, verse 6. He made the moon also to serve in her season for a declaration of times and a sign of the world. From the moon is a sign of feast, a light that decreaseth in her perfection. The month is called after her name, increasing wonderfully in her changing, being an instrument of the armies above, shining in the firmament of heaven.
All right. So he made the moon also to serve in her season for a declaration of times and a sign to the world. So the moon was originally made to serve in her seasons properly, all right, for the declaration of times and a sign to the world. But you're going to see that the moon went off, all right? It went off in creation, and God has been telling people through the prophets not to follow the moon again because it's out of order and they're not listening, all right? So when things are incorrect, God always sends prophet to recorrect people. So this is why you always have to be listening because something can come out false, but God sends his prophet to correct. You have to listen to the corrections. All right. So when you're sending them for the corrections, they're not listening. Yeah. Someone says
So, in the Essene Gospel of Peace, right? In book 2, it says the angel of sun, she who cometh each morning. So is the sun female or is the
angel of the sun, messenger of the sun,
Okay.
messenger of the sun. Yes. So it's not the sun.
Because it says she who cometh each morning as a bright summer.
Yes. Yes. Angel. Yes. It's the angel, not the sun itself.
Okay. All right, thank you.
No problem. All right. So once again, the moon is a sign for feast. It was a sign for feast, a light that decreases in imperfection. The month. So the month gets its name from the moon. This is why people are so hell bent on following the moon because they're like, moon, it's come from month. It's all connected. I gotta watch the moon for the month. All right. So this is what's happening here. The moon, the month gets its name from the moon. So you can look that up. Etymology of month is gonna come close to moon. All right. So we're going to go to the Targum, Genesis, and 1. And once again, the Targum, Genesis, all right, this was used after they came from captivity from Babylon, all right. And this these scriptures was used to give better interpretation and clear interpretation for the teachings of Israel. It was read by them. So this was actually was being read to the people, like in a place like this, all right, to bring more clarity to certain things that's happening. All right, so we're at Genesis 1. This is the Aramaic Targum.
All right, this is the book of Genesis, chapter 1. And the Lord made two great luminaries, and they were equal in glory, 21 years.
All right, so we're going to understand that in creation, so God in the fourth day made the sun and the moon. He put them up there. One day in creation is 1,000 years. So when God put the sun and the moon up there, in that 1,000 years, when he put them up there for 21 of those 1,000 years, they had equal light. All right, they had equal power. All right, so what does that also tell us? That the moon couldn't have been in the night. It couldn't operate in the night, because if it has equal powers as the sun, how can it be in the night? There's going to be no night. All right, you can't tell what night and day is. All right, so this is going to also let to us know on Genesis when he's talking about the lesser light and the greater light. All right, the lesser light you're going to see is not the moon. All right, the moon had the same equality as the sun. All right, it was 21 days with the sun as the same.
Why sometimes she's out with the sun.
Correct, because she doesn't really. That's why she's out with, because it wasn't her that is separating the day and the night. So that's why we're seeing that. You know what? How comes the moon is out right now? We're not understanding what really transpired here. Yeah, listen. It's like, sure, it wasn't. You didn't give it the order, right? So it's like it knows it got to be the lesser, so it's over there. But we see it make its way over sometime in the sun's area. All right. So they were equal in glory 21 years out of the 1,000 years that it was made in that day 4. All right. So one day in heaven is 1,000 years on earth. The 7 days of creation are actually 7,000 years. On the 4th day, when God made the sun and the moon, that's 1,000 years of that in that 4th day. In that 4th day, for 21 days only, was the sun and the moon equal before the nature of the moon was changed to what you see right now currently. All right, so read it again and go with it.
All right. So just read Genesis 1 again.
Yeah, read the whole thing again.
All right. This is Genesis 1 out of the Aramaic Targum. And the Lord made two great luminaries, and they were equal in glory, 21 years, less 602 and 70 parts of an hour. And afterwards the moon recited against the sun a false report, and she was diminished. And the sun was appointed to be the greater light to rule the day, and the moon to be the inferior light to rule in the night, and the stars.
All right, and the stars. All right, so we came to be the inferior light to rule the night, because you're going to see that the moon, although the stars was ruling, it became the more powerful one in the night. It overpowers the stars. All right, and a false report was cited. And you're going to see that everything in creation mimics the things that happen physically. So the same way the moon went off, all right, is the same way Eve eventually went off as well. All right, this is why the woman, her cycle is in accordance with what? The moon. All right, it ain't with the sun. The sun had nothing to do with her cycle. All right. So, all right, they got a connection to the moon. So there's a connection. We have to admit there's a connection, woman and the moon. All right. So we're going to go into what is Qumran. All right. What is Qumran, where, right, these records came from, all right, in this community who was dealing with this calendar. All right. So we're going to go to the Britannica Encyclopedia.
This is the Qumran. This is out of the Britannica Encyclopedia. Region on the northwestern shore of the Dead Sea, notable since 1947 as the site of the caves where the Dead Sea Scrolls were first discovered. Excavations since 1949 at a site called Khirbet Qumran, which is Arabic for Qumran ruins, less than a mile from the sea in the north of the waterway Wadi Qumran, have revealed the ruins of buildings believed by some scholars to have been occupied by a community of Essenes, who have been posited as the owners of the scrolls.
All right, so Qumran is the region northwestern shore of the Dead Sea, notable since 1947. After caves were found, the Dead Sea Scrolls were discovered, all right, from these Qumran ruins, all right. All right, the scholars believe that they've been occupied by the community of the Essenes. So the Essenes and the Qumran and the Dead Sea Scrolls have a tight, close connection. All right, so the Essenes, all right, were at Qumran, and at Qumran is where the Dead Sea Scrolls were found. All right, and the Dead Sea Scrolls is a major scriptures that we go into that actually is the foundation of this church. All right, so continue for us. Give us what Essene is.
All right. Essene, a member of a religious sect or brotherhood that flourished in Palestine from about the 2nd century BC to the end of the 1st century AD. The New Testament does not mention them, and accounts given by Josephus, Philo of Alexandria, and Pliny the Elder sometimes differ in significant details, perhaps indicating a diversity that existed among the Essenes themselves. Following the discovery of the Dead Sea Scrolls in the late 1940s and 50s, in the vicinity of Kirbat, Qumran, most scholars have agreed that the Qumran community was Essenian.
All right. So once again, we're just confirming that the Essenes are part of the Qumran community. The Qumran community was where the Dead Sea Scrolls was found, and the Dead Sea Scrolls are known to be a community that was Essenian. All right, these were Essene people. All right, and that picture right there, that is actually the Qumran caves down there by the Dead Sea that these scrolls were found in. All right. So we're going to continue into some information about the scrolls. All right, so we're going to go to the World History Encyclopedia. So once again, that's the book right there. All right, so if you're going to be an Essene, every Essene, you're following this church, you need to have this book. You need to have the complete Dead Sea Scrolls in English. All right, for those online. This is basically pertinent information for the Essenes, all right? That is the foundational understanding of them, all right? On what they were dealing with and how they were living as a community. All right, and this also has biblical books in there as well. So all the books of the Bible were found in these caves, except for it said the book of Esther. All right. So we're at the Dead Sea Scrolls, World History Encyclopedia.
This is the Dead Sea Scrolls. All right. Dead Sea Scrolls are a collection of scrolls found in the desert of East Jerusalem on the shore of the Dead Sea. They represent the largest manuscript collections of texts from the Second Temple period found in the area of Judah, an area notorious for its lack of manuscripts. Around 930 texts were found in 11 caves in the hills surrounding Khirbet, Qumran. The texts are the product of a community of Essenes who lived in the nearby ruins of Qumran and were composed between the 3rd century BCE and the 1st century CE. They are significant because they shed considerable light on the religious and political world of late Second Temple Judaism and on the text of the Hebrew Bible.
All right, so the Dead Sea Scrolls, all right, short form DSSS, are a collection of scrolls found in the desert of East Jerusalem of the Dead Sea. All right, we would like to visit over there, and get a nice, vacation over there, all right, see those actual ruins. Yes. All right. So they represent the largest manuscript collection texts of the Second Temple found in the area of Judea. So these are the largest manuscript collection. There's been any scripts that they're reading from. There's never been as much and as large as this that they found here that basically verifies all the biblical texts and everything. That's how big this library is. All right. There's around 930 texts found in 11 caves. All right. The texts are a product of the community of the Essenes who lived nearby the ruins of Qumran. All right, so these books are the product of the Essenes. All right, we just want to establish that before we go into further information regarding the calendar. All right, continue for us.
The texts are a product of the community of Essenes who lived in the nearby ruins of Qumran and were composed between the 3rd century BCE and the 1st century CE. They are significant because they shed considerable light on the religious and political world of late Second Temple Judaism on the text of the Hebrew Bible. The term biblical is inappropriate when applied to the Dead Sea Scrolls because the Bible, as we know it today, did not exist in the Second Temple Judaism.
All right, so the biblical is inappropriate when applied to the Dead Sea Scrolls. Why? Because there was no Bible. They never made a Bible. There was scrolls, Hebrew scrolls, and all these scrolls, all right, constituted the records of the Hebrews. All right, through the Council of Nicaea. All right, this is when they came and they made, hey, these are going to be a Bible. We're going to put all these scrolls into one collection of a book and call it the Bible. Now, when you bring somebody, right, something outside of the Bible and say, here's a text outside of here, they're like, oh, the Bible, right? This is something. If you're doing that, then you clearly don't understand that the Hebrew records didn't come in a full book like this. Each record in here was a book separated. All right. They're a collection of, they just had to be in Hebrew and scripturally to be considered a record of Hebrew. All right. So as long as it was written in Hebrew and from the Hebrews, it was considered to be scripture, as long as they could prove that it came from the prophets. All right.
So then, just to clarify, then the Bible is also from those books that they collected over time.
Correct. They're just small collection of those books. So when you're dealing with the Bible, you're dealing with a small collection of the Hebrew books. All right. This is why when you read the Bible, you're like, where's the rest of this story? How comes God told me a piece of the story?
Is it not written in the book of Joshua?
Yeah, and they'll tell you it's written in this book, it's written in that book, it's written in the book of Jasher. And they're like, where is these books that the Bible's telling you from?
Acts of Solomon.
All right.
When you go and you tell them that there are other books that were taken out of the Bible, they tell you that the Most High's word don't change. So how
Yeah.
can the other books that are not
Correct, because they're not understanding. He didn't make these books. He made scrolls, all right? And these different scrolls consisted of scrolls of a people, all right? And there was no actual book. There is all different books which came in the form of scrolls. All right, so once again, every book of the Hebrew Bible was found except for Esther in the Dead Sea, all right, in the Qumran caves, all right? Psalms, 34 different scrolls of Psalms. Deuteronomy had 30 scrolls. Isaiah, 24 different scrolls. Genesis, 20 scrolls of Genesis. All right, Ecclesiastes, only 2 different scrolls. Ezra, Nehemiah, Chronicles only have 1 scroll each, all right, which means copies. So there's various copies backing these scrolls up. All right, so now we're going to go into the Dead Sea Scrolls. We're going to read some of the information that it gives us about who were these people, what was God telling to them, and once again, going in back into the information about the calendar. All right, we're almost done. We're just going to get right down to going in and showing where this calculation of time initially came from, and we'll close it out for there and start it again next week.
This is the Dead Sea Scrolls, fragments of Zadok, chapter 5, verse 1. With them that held fast by the commandment of God, who were left of them, God confirmed the covenant of Israel forever, revealing unto them the hidden things wherein all Israel had erred, his holy Sabbaths and his glorious festivals, his righteous testimonies and his true ways, and the desires of his will, the which if a man do, he shall live by them. He opened before them, and they digged a well of many waters. And he that despises them shall not live.
All right, so what does the Dead Sea Scrolls tell us about these people? It tells that God, when dealing with these people, confirmed his covenant with these people, revealing unto them the hidden things wherein all Israel erred. So wherever Israel erred, and we see they erred in calculation of the calendar, he showed them the calculation of the calendar. All right, when they erred and they were mistaken and in error in calculating the holy Sabbaths and the festivals, he showed the Essenes the holy festivals. When they were in error in his testimonies and teachings, he showed the Essenes his true ways. All right, that if a man does these things, all right, he's gonna live, and if they don't, all right, then they're gonna die. So this is why I was saying that. Why would they want you not to know what day to celebrate on? Because they want you to die. They don't want you to live. All right. They want you to know what these other days are on. But when it's God's days, they want this whole big confusion there. All right. Because God is showing you that if you come here, if a man do these things, he shall live. All right. Blessings shall be opened up before him. All right. And we're seeing the nations, they deal with these blessings. They follow this stuff and they got their blessings. But guess what happened to the black people? All right. We've yet to be on point to get our blessings yet. Because when you look at it as a black nation, we have yet to come as a whole to Christianity and do the things correctly in order to receive these blessings. All right, so we're going to continue.
This is the Dead Sea Scrolls, fragments of the Zadokite Works, chapter 6, verse 1. The priests are the penitents of Israel who went forth out of the land of Judah, and the Levites are they who joined them. And the sons of Zadok are the elect of Israel called by the name, that are holding office in the end of days. Behold, the statement of their names according to their generations, and the period of their home, and the office of their afflictions, and the years of their sojournings, and the statement of their works. The first saints whom God pardoned, both justified the righteous and condemned the wicked.
All right, so these priests, these are penitents, all right, who came out of the land of Israel. All right, these are the sons of Zadok. The sons of Zadok are the Essenes. Or when you hear of Essenes, you automatically have to think of sons of Zadok. All right, are the elect of Israel. All right, when you hear sons of Zadok, you have to think of this as, hey, this is a super family. All right, you're talking about Vegeta, you're talking about Goku, you're talking about any of these anime characters. When you're saying I'm a son of Zadok, you're saying all right, that's what you're saying. You saying I'm an Essene. All right, they're like, let's see the blonde hair. Let's see you an Essene then. All right, you say you the one. You're Super Saiyan. That's what an Essene is. When you're hearing sons of Zadok, Essene, you're supposed to think of it as boom, powering up. You the special one. All right, that's what you're supposed to look at it. Sons of Zadok. All right, they're the elect, holding office in the end days. What does it tell us? It says, behold the statement of their names according to generations, the period of their office, the number of their affliction, the years of their sojournings, the statement of their works. They're saying basically read all their stuff, because these are the people who got pardoned. These are the people who's in the correct. Read their history, read their sojournings, read their afflictions, read everything from them. All right, why? Because this is who God pardoned first. All right. He justified the righteous and he condemned the wicked. So you want to follow these people because they're the first ones God start lining back with his true understandings and principles. All right, we're going to go to the Bible just to stamp that, to show you that these same sons of Zadok are spoken about in this same Bible. You can open up and you can read the same thing. You don't even have to go into the Dead Sea Scrolls. All right, so we're at Ezekiel 44:15.
This is the book of the prophet Ezekiel, chapter 44, verse 15. But the priests, the Levites, the sons of Zadok, that kept the charge of my sanctuary when the children of Israel went astray from me, they shall come near to me to minister unto me, and they shall stand before me to offer unto me the fat and the blood, saith the Lord God. They shall enter into my sanctuary, and they shall come near to my table to minister unto me, and they shall keep my charge.
All right, so it showed you the priests, the Levites, the sons of Zadok. All right. They kept the charge of God's sanctuary when all Israel went astray. So what we're seeing, most people are going to go astray. These sons are the ones that's keeping God's stuff. Everybody else was going away. So never look at the number. God is like, everyone not listening. Everyone's gone. Only these sons is following me. The sons of Zadok. They're keeping charge. They're doing the things right for him. They're teaching right, doing all of those stuff right. But no one could tell why, because everybody else is fooled. All right. We tell you the blind leadeth the blind. All right. Many people are blind. Most people are fooled. All right. You want to know if you're being fooled? See how much people is around you. If there's a lot of people, warning. Okay. Warning. Ditch very close. All right. You got to be like, wait a minute. It's the opposite. You got to know some principles of this world. Majority of the people, if you're seeing a majority believe something or do something, most likely it's false. All right, that's how the world works. All right, because God is testing you to see, are you paying attention? Are you going to be the one that's paying attention? Be like, you know what? I see it a different way. Just you'll be surprised how much people are programmed and just follow what other people are saying or doing, and how much people are really putting in work to really understand the things themselves. All right, a lot of people don't want to do that. All right. They get the same feeling that a youth can get when they're in class and like, I don't want to read all this stuff. I just listen to the teacher. If you're the one that I'm going to listen to what they is, if you're not in your books and getting A's and challenging the teacher, then you're one of those ones that's going to let them tell you what's real and what's not real. Because you're not challenging, you're listening. You, all right? So we're going to go to Ezekiel 48:11.
It's the book of the prophet Ezekiel, chapter 48, verse 11. It shall be for the priests that are sanctified of the sons of Zadok, which have kept my charge, which went not astray when the children of Israel went astray, as the Levites went astray.
All right. So the children of Israel, all right, they kept, the sons of Zadok, all right, they kept the charge and did not go astray when everyone was going astray. And that's what we're seeing. Everyone's going astray in terms of the calendar, in terms of understanding, interpretation of the scriptures. All right. While the sons of Zadok, the Essene Community Church of Christ, were not going astray. All right. Which is why we have the charge as well. All right. Believe it or not. All right. So we're at Daniel 7 and 25. So we're going to bring in this last prophecy, break it down once again to show where these times came from. All right. And get right to it.
This is the book of the prophet Daniel, chapter 7, verse 25. And he shall speak great words against the Most High, and shall wear out the saints of the Most High, and think to change times and laws. And they shall be given into his hand until a time and times, and the dividing of time.
All right. So this is in Daniel 7:25. This is speaking about the fourth kingdom. All right. The fourth kingdom, the beast. All right. He shall speak great words against the Most High. He's going to wear out the saints of the Most High. He's going to think to change times and laws. So this empire is going to think to change times and laws, and they're going to speak words against the Most High. All right. And they shall be given into his hand until a times, and the dividing of a time. So this is a long time. And we're going to see that this is about 2,000 something years that Rome has been ruling. All right. So we're going to go to what times is in the Hebrew.
All right. This is the Strong's definition for the word time. This is Hebrews 21:66. This is Zeman. From H2165, the same as 2165. A season, time. Keep going. All right. Zaman, from an appointed occasion, season, or time.
All right. So times is season or time or appointed occasion. So this kingdom or empire has came on the earth, and we're going to see the difference because empire's been doing this. The Most High had to come and tell Israel, hey, they changed. This is the correct time. So why would he need to tell them again here that an empire is going to change times and laws again? All right. We're going to see why, because of the way it's happening and to who it's happening to. All right. So he's telling them they're going to change times and laws. What is times? Times is the season appointed occasion. They're going to change the appointed occasions. They're going to change laws. What's the law? Give us definition of law.
This is from the Hebrews 1882. Doth, corresponding to 1881, a decree, law. All right, this is doth, from uncertain, perhaps foreign derivation, a royal edict or statute, commandment, commission, decree, law, or manner. All right. Law equals royal edict, decree, or statute.
All right, so they changed the seasonal, all right, seasonal observations, and they changed royal edicts or statutes, things that Christ put in place or said. This is what this nation is changing. So they're changing the calendar, they're changing royal laws that Christ put in place, or a royal edict, a decree, a statute. All right, so we're going to go and show how the Pope influenced the Christian calendar through laws. All right, why did he make mention of the changing of these things? Because it would be done to the people that he gave the proper time to. Nobody else was on proper time. So this wasn't a warning to the world when he gave it to Daniel. All right, this was a warning to who? The nation of Israel, that a different changing of the way, all right, seasons and things were done. Even the way the Jews do it. The Jews never even did it the way it's been done here through the Pope. So we're going to go through some of the history on how the Pope influenced the Christian calendar through laws. All right, so we're going to go to the Britannica Encyclopedia.
The 10 days that vanish, the switch to the Gregorian calendar.
All right, so the 10 days that vanished. All right, so the Pope came in, all right, Pope Gregory to be specific, came in and he made 10 days vanish from the calendar to fix something. And we're going to check all these things out. That's a question. Oh, yes, yes.
What about the Caesar calendar?
The what?
Caesar, Julius Caesar.
The Julian calendar. That's what it switched from. So we're going to get a little understanding on that. So it switched from the Julian calendar, all right? And then it went to what we're at now, the Gregorian calendar, all right? So that Julian calendar that was running Rome from before, all right? And then it came in under Christianity. So Christianity never was supposed to have that calendar, but it came under there. And then Gregory came in. He's the one that said, you know what? I have the perfect Christian calendar now. And then we're going to get all that history.
Put them all up to make sense.
Yeah.
You were supposed to always be separated from it.
Right. But what happened? The Israelites weren't there. They went off. The sons of Zadok are not there. The Romans step in to be the Gentiles. They're like, all right, we just plug in our calendar. Then they're like, all right, we can't just plug in our calendar. Let's remake it. And, you know, this is what they came up with. Right.
When it comes to calendars, small errors can add up over time.
All right. So when it comes to calendars, small errors can add up over time. So the shifting of your days, all of these things is what they try to fix with the leap years. All right. Which are intercalary days. All right. Intercalary days. All right. Or called intercalations. All right. But continue for us.
The Julian calendar, the prevalent calendar in the Christian world for the first millennium and part of the second millennium, was an improvement over the Roman Republican calendar that it replaced, but it was 11 minutes and 14 seconds longer than the tropical year, the time it takes the sun to return to the same position as seen from Earth. The result was the calendar drifted about 1 day for every 314 years.
All right. So the result of this Julian calendar, they're saying the result was the calendar was drifting about 1 day for every 314 years because of these things. All right. The Roman Republic calendar. All right. So continue for us.
One of the most pressing problems caused by the error was the increasing difficulty of calculating the date of Easter, which the Council of Nicaea in 325 had decreed should fall on the first Sunday following the first full moon after the vernal equinox or equinox, which at that time fell on March 21st.
All right. So here what we're seeing. All right. So one of the most pressing problems was caused by an error was the increase in difficulty in calculating the date of what we know the Catholic Easter, or we know as the Resurrection Day. All right. They call it Easter. We call it Resurrection Day. All right. Which the Council of Nicaea in 325. So this council decreed that Easter, all right, or the Resurrection Day, all right, should fall on the first Sunday following the first full moon after the vernal. So it's not just, oh, we're following the equinox. So they're getting their calculation by, all right, saying that the first Sunday after, so once again, they're not going to put this on, this is why you see it changing. They can't put a specific day on it. They're like the first Sunday after the equinox, all right, and the full moon that happens at that time, right? That's when they could calculate Easter. So this is, God never told us any of this that we're seeing here, but this is how they came up with this in 325. They decreed that Easter or Resurrection Day is supposed to fall on the first Sunday following the first full moon after the equinox. So it's not the equinox. So God told us on the equinox, count 14 days and then you'll have the Passover and the resurrection. They're saying you got to wait, all right? You have to wait for the equinox to come and then the full moon to come and then you count Easter, all right? So this is what's pushing it so far back into April, all right? And they're saying at this time when they came with this understanding in 325, this full moon happened on March 21st. So this has nothing to do with the equinox on March 21st. All right. The first full moon after the vernal equinox happened on March 21st. So that March 21st date is the full moon that they're observing, waiting for to number the days of Passover. 14 days from that full moon after the equinox. All right. So this is where that March 21st one is coming from. All right. So they're still following the moon when they're following that March 21st one. But they're deceiving people to make you think that, oh, we're following the equinox. They're following the full moon after the vernal equinox. That's the date that they're marking on the 21st, and it fell on that date in 325 AD. All right, so continue for us.
The growing discrepancy between the date set by the council and the actual vernal equinox was noted in the 8th century, if not earlier, and a number of proposals for reform were brought before popes in the Middle Ages, but no action was taken, and the Julian calendar, flawed as it was, remained the official calendar of the Christian Church. In the session of 1562 to 63, the Council of Trent passed a decree calling for the Pope to fix the problem by implementing a reformed calendar, but it took another 2 decades to find a suitable fix and put it into place. After years of consultation and research, Pope Gregory XIII signed a papal bull in February 1582, promulgating the reformed calendar that came to be known as the Gregorian calendar. The reforms were based on the suggestions of the Italian scientist Luigi Lilio, with some modifications by the Jesuit mathematician and astronomer Christopher Clavius.
All right, so we gonna get right into this.
Yeah.
All right. So they're showing, hey, look, all right, the vernal equinox, all right, it's going off. All right, the number of proposals for a reform were brought before the Pope in the Middle Ages. All right, which we had that too. We were a part of a church and we're like, hey, this things is wrong. There's a plenty of people that say, hey, we need to reform. We need to change these things. We need to do these such and such. All right. And to change the calendar. So the Pope heard and he instituted and changed the calendar, all right, by taking counsel from the people that was around him who were privy to the information or knowledge, all right, and the science around this. All right, so the Julian calendar, flawed as it was, remained the official calendar of the Christian church. So the Christian church adopted this calendar and it was the official calendar for them. They never came into the official calendar that they were supposed to come into. All right, so it took another 2 decades, all right, after the Pope hearing about these problems, all right, to find a suitable fix. So it took a long time. Imagine 2 decades, 20 years after them knowing, hey, the calendar is off, we got to do something. It took them 2 decades to figure out some type of way to fix this, all right, 20 years, all right. After years of consultation and research. So they researched and consulted years, 20 years of research on the calendar to say, yo, how can we change this? And you're wondering why would they change it again now? Look how long it took back then. There's not big things you could just change, all right? So it took 20 years. After years of consultation and research, Pope Gregory signed a papal bull. So this is the changing of the law. So papal bulls are laws, all right? Legal documents. All right. How do we know? The papal bull, doctrine of discovery, still controls over here today that gave the colonizers our land. So these are laws. All right. These are the land laws, all of that. So the Pope put in a law that changed the calendar. This is what God was speaking about. They're going to change times and laws. Now, did they change it to the book of Jubilees and Enoch that we've been reading? Did they change it to 364 days? No. All right. So we already know they're falling in error. All right. So we're seeing how this is tied. So he signs a papal bull, February 1582, to reform the calendar. And this is the calendar that's known as the Gregorian. All right. The reform was based on an Italian scientist. This wasn't even based on a Hebrew. All right. An Italian scientist, Luigi Lilio. Or what? Lilio?
Lilio, yeah.
Lilio. Luigi Lilio. All right. With some modifications by the Jesuit mathematician and astronomer Christopher Clavius. So a Jesuit mathematician and astronomer and an Italian gave us our calendar right now. All right, we already know about them Jesuits, yes.
Columbus first sat on Jamaica and the islands. He tried to convert the Aboriginals and use the solar system and the stars and their calendar to show them, that you guys have all wrong and you guys are worshiping false gods, and there it is to turn into
Christian.
Yeah. Yeah. And then after it's basically something happened, I guess they had an eclipse or something, which made them basically agree upon what the white man was saying to them.
I would agree with what he was saying to them. So they needed to agree, all right, at that time. So definitely they were doing false things. They're still doing the same thing right now. All right, were they following the right calendar per se? No, but they're following the right God. All right, so God has, you have to, That's the best that he could have gave him at that time. All right, so yes, that's good information. All right, them doing that, and that's you showing that that's key, because how God or how prophets convinced people was by showing them signs. So I would believe that, hey, Christopher Columbus, he came, he told them such and such. He's already working with God. God give him the sign so that they could believe. Boom, that sign would come. Some wouldn't believe, some would believe. So I never heard that story, but that's very interesting that you heard that story and you heard it with that detail that we could relate back to the scriptures that hey, the Most High does operate like that. All right. So that was good. The water for that.
I can see that too, Archbishop, because even like, didn't the Mayans say the war is going to end in 2012? So they were off from the calendar as well.
Yeah, this is.
I think because
But,
the calendar ended that time.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, but they said their calendar, that we're not really in that time, so they're saying it's still on point, but we're not at that time yet. All right, so the Italian scientists Luigi Galileo and Christopher Calvius, all right, the Jesuit mathematician, is who gave the Pope the science for this calendar. Continue for us.
The most surreal part of implementing the new calendar came in October 1582, when 10 days were dropped from the calendar to bring the vernal equinox from March 11th back to the 21st.
All right, so once again, the vernal equinox was really at the further closer up in the month. But why are they bringing it to March 21st? Because they want this new moon, right, this full moon, all right, to pass. All right, they want the vernal equinox, and then on the full moon of the Jews, they're waiting. They're waiting for that full moon to then count the Passover date. All right, and they're saying that full moon happens on the 21st. So this is not really a calculation of the equinox. Once again, this is a calculation on the full moon that would happen on the 21st that they're waiting for after the equinox. So they're still following the moon. All right, so continue for us.
The church had chosen October to avoid skipping any major Christian festivals.
All right, so they did this change and to sync everything back, take 10 days away. They did this in October because there wasn't really any Christian festivals in October that they would ruin. All right, so continue for us.
So in countries that adopted the new calendar, the feast of St. Francis of Assisi on October 4th, 1582 was directly followed by October 15th. France made the transition separately in December.
All right, so in October 4th, 1952, if you were to wake up October 5th, all right, 1952, it would have been October 15th on that day instead of the 5th. All right, so you went to sleep one day, it was the 4th, you woke up, it was the 15th. And obviously the whole world knew this, so they probably like, hey, we missed 10 days, yo, we lost 10 days. Just like, oh, we wake up and we're like, hey, we lost an hour, all right? Last night, or hey, we gained an hour. All right, so at that time, they lost 10 days to sync everything back on their calendar. All right, so continue again. So once again, clarifying on that, they never changed the day of the week. So it was Thursday, they woke up, it was still Thursday. So the day of the week has never changed. It was only the days of the month that they're trying to sync. The days of the week have never changed. It's always been the 7-day cycle, as the calendars we're going to see is not based on the 7-day cycle. It's based on the movement of the sun and the stars. But continue for us.
Something as complex as implementing a new calendar couldn't go off without some complications, though. The Protestant and Orthodox countries didn't want to take direction from the Pope, so they refused to adopt the new calendar.
All right, so this is what we're seeing. He's changing times. He doesn't control all Christendom, all right? But when he changes it, he wants everybody who doesn't even agree with him to change their calendar too. All right, so them saying, hey, we don't listen to the Pope, they didn't change their calendar. So the whole world for a second was off on calendar. This person's using that calendar. This Christians are using this calendar. All right, and they refused to adopt the new calendar. So continue for us.
All right. The result was the Catholic Europe, Austria, Spain, Portugal, Italy, Poland, and the Catholic states of Germany suddenly jumped ahead of the rest of the continent by 10 days. And traveling across a border often meant traveling forward or backward on the calendar.
All right, so in that time, we're looking at Europe. They were like, all right, if you're in Australia, you're in here, all right, it's this day. But if you were to go to England, right, they're like, damn, there's like 10 days ahead of us over here, right? You would be jumping in. Same way we're going to the next place, you're like, oh man, it's this time over there, right? So it was weird for them to be like, yo, we're going to these places. Now they're saying, yo, it's next week on a whole nother day. right? So it was hard for them to do business, because if you did with business with someone and you sign a contract, you're like, yo, this was done on this day, it wasn't really done on it. So this is why they had to align everything eventually, because you can't do business when things are out of sync like that. Yeah. But they're staying on their stuff. They're like, we're in our country, we don't do that. In our country is this. When we go to your country, you do what you want. All right. So continue for us.
Eventually, non-Catholic countries did begin to adopt the Gregorian calendar. The Protestant regions of Germany and the Netherlands switched in the 17th century. Great Britain and the territories of the British Empire followed suit in 1752, spreading the Gregorian calendar around the globe.
All right. So once again, eventually non-Catholic countries did begin to adopt the Gregorian calendar. What does that tell you? That the Catholic Church was beginning to get control and an influence. All right. So their control and influence made countries adopt their calendar and change it over. All right. Protestants in Germany, Netherlands switched in the 17th century. So it took them almost 200 years to switch over. All right. So Protestants always had a different calendar. We could tell that, all right, once they agree with whatever the Catholic Church is doing, they switched over to that calendar.
How accurate is the year? What's the thing called again?
Mayan?
Ethiopian.
Oh, Ethiopian calendar. It works kind of the same way, but once again, yeah, there's some things that are off about the calendar, how they start the days, things like that. Actually, you know what? They start the days too the same way as the sunrise and thing. So no, their calendar is very close. Once again, they're reading the Book of Enoch, so I'm pretty sure they have the Book of Enoch. It's the Ethiopian.
I think their calendar starts from when they went into they became a Christian empire. That's where their calendar basically starts from. Yeah.
They have one of the oldest churches
Yeah.
in the world.
Yeah, so they use the Enoch calendar, all right, because they have the Book of Enoch. So it would make sense that they gotta read it and come across and be like, yo, this is the calendar.
Do they have the year though?
I don't think they have the year exactly, and yes, there's some other things that they have off that are off, technical things from when I remember when I was looking at it. But I do remember they do recognize the sunrise. So at sunrise, they change the hours of the time. So when the sun rises, it's like, all right, it's like what will happen at 12 o'clock.
That is their AM.
Yeah, that's their AM. And then when it goes down, it changes again, which that's what's supposed to happen. Instead of at 12 o'clock, you see it restart to 0 again, right? When it's the middle of the night, right? At sunrise, you're supposed to see it, it's 12 o'clock right now, or it's 1 o'clock. It's the first hour right now, all right? It's 57 minutes into the first hour, like how they do at 12 o'clock. All right, so once again, we're seeing that the Catholic Church influenced the world, and as their influence grew, everybody got swallowed up by this calendar that was prophesied that, hey, they would change times and laws. Not only did they change Israel's time and laws, they changed all the nations' times and laws. Every nation, whether they had the calendar or not, they got to follow the Catholic Church calendar. Yes.
Okay, so there's 52 weeks in a year. How do you get 12 months out of that?
How do you get 12 months out of that? Because he's about to tell us, all right? 30 days in there, all right? So there's 30 days in there.
That still doesn't give you 50, still doesn't give you 12 months. I give you like, I don't know, just in my end of it.
It's going to give you, we're going to get to all of that. I don't know if we're going to get it today, all right? But I can just tell you it's going to give you 360, all right? So we're going to see that a year is a cycle. A year is a cycle. If you turn around right now, what are they going to call that? Turn around, give me a full spin. What do they call that?
360.
360, all right? So we're getting some clarity on the numbers. We have what? 4 seasons, all right? That the sun is changing the way it operates in the sky, all right? That's 4 times of the year. That's 4 days added because the sun is not continuing its cycle. But if those 4 days, seasonal days weren't there, you would have 360 days in your year. All right, but he gave you an even number, 4 more to add, right? So he didn't give you an uneven number. See, 365 is uneven, all right? 364 is evens. So even when it's supposed to have 360 days because that's a cycle, but he's like 4 days, everything stops on. Adding those 4 days doesn't stop your year, all right? So it's really 360, all right? It's 360. 360 is a spin. 360 is a cycle. A year means a cycle, a spin. This is why we get the 360. All right? But we're going to get further. As we get further down, it's going to explain to us, all right, the further of the stuff there. All right? So hopefully we can get there. So continue for us. All right, where are you at actually now? All right, so we're now at going to actually read the proclamation concerning the Christian calendar. All right, so I went and I got the papal bull that he wrote concerning the Christian calendar and what was happening at this time. All right, so I've read the other stuff before, but this is the first time I actually went into the papal bull and seen what was written on the calculations on why they had to do all of this. All right, so we're going to go there. All right, and it's called Inter Gravissimus. All right, this is the papal bull issued by Pope Gregory the 13th.
Gregory, bishop, servant of servants of God in perpetual memory. Among our serious pastoral duties, not the last is that we care to complete those sacred rites reserved by the Council of Trent, with the guiding assistance of God.
All right, so once again, so Gregory, he's calling himself a bishop. Pope Gregory, he's a bishop, servant of God's perpetual memory. He says, among our serious pastoral duties, not the last is that we care to complete those sacred rites reserved by the Council of Trent. So he's like, we want to complete these sacred rites and festivals that we agreed on in the Council of Trent with the guiding assistance of God. Continue.
However, there are two principal parts in the breviary. The one compromises the prayers and the religious anthems to recite on the public holidays and the working days. The other concerns the annual cycle of Easter and other festivals whose return depends on measuring the movement of the sun and the moon.
All right, so here we see them again. He says, right, one comprises of the prayers and religious anthems to recite on the public holidays and the working days. So he's like, hey, we got to deal with the religious anthems and the things we're supposed to do on these holidays, festival days. Not only that, all right, how do we calculate the cycle? The annual cycle of Easter and the festival depends on the measuring the movement of the sun and the moon. So we already know right there he's wrong because he added the sun and the moon. All right. He added the moon in there. So he's already wrong. So he said his calendar depends on the movement of the sun and the moon. All right, but continue for us.
The reform of the first part, Pius V, our predecessor of happy memory, discharged and put it into force with the bull Quod Anobis on July 9th, 1568. The reform of the second part, which first requires the restoration of the calendar, was tried often over a long time by our predecessor Roman pontiffs. However, it could not be carried out thus far because the various calendar reform projects proposed by astronomers, in addition to presenting the immense and almost inextricable difficulties which always accompany such a reform, were not durable, and especially did not maintain intact the ancient rites of the church. And that was our first concern in this business.
All right. So once again, the reform in the first part, the predecessor, a happy memory, discharged it and put it into force. All right. So they put these things into force. The second form, all right, the reform of the second part, right, requires the restoration of the calendar. All right. So they want to restore the calendar, which was often tried over a long time. So they've been trying to restore the calendar over a long time by other Roman pontiffs, other so-called popes that came before Gregory tried to do this. All right. He says, however, it could not be carried out because the various calendar reform projects proposed by astronomers, all right, presenting immense and almost intricable difficulties. All right. So took immense and a lot of difficulties, all right, to accompany such reform, and the reforms were not durable, so they did not last. They see that it bothered the calendar, all right, and they did not maintain the ancient rites of the church. So these calendar days and festival days, they're saying, hey, they're not maintaining, they're clearly being changed with the way that we're operating, all right, and this was their first concern in the business. So they're like, we got to get these feast days correct, all right, so continue.
While, therefore, this has been entrusted to us, an undeserved dispensation from God has been allowed. Our dear son Antonio Lilio, professor of science and medicine, brought to us a book written at one time by his brother Aloysius Luigi, in which this one showed that by means of a new cycle of epochs which he had devised, who directed his own particular golden number pattern and accommodated the entirety of any solar year, Every defect of the calendar collapsed, and the constant calculations will endure for every generation. He was thus able to restore and explain how the calendar itself will never need published any further change.
All right, so here we're seeing here, all right, so while therefore this has been entrusted to us, an undeserved dispensation from God has been allowed. So here saying, yo, at this time, God has revealed to us the truth. All right, an undeserved dispensation. God has undeservedly give us this revelation and allowed it to be brought forth to us. Our dear son, Antonio Lialo, professor of science and medicine. All right, so this professor of science and medicine, not Enoch, all right, not Jubilees, of the Jesuits, all right. This scientist, well, this one Italian, the other one Jesuit. Oh yeah, all right. We probably Jesuit too, who knows, all right, Jesuit family. All right, so Antonio, professor of science and medicine, brought to us a book. So this man brought the Pope a book, not the book of Jubilees, all right? Not the book of Enoch. Some book he wrote from some next scientist. He got from about some next scientist. So he brought to us a book written at one time by his brother, all right? So his brother, Luigi, in which this one showed that by means of a new cycle of epoch, so new way of calculating all these things, all right, which he devised, all right, he directed his own particular golden number pattern. So he's the one that came out 365.25. He came up with this golden number calculation to override 364. All right. So he came up with this golden number pattern, all right, and said that this accommodated the entirety of the solar year. Any solar year, this number, not the 364 God gave to Enoch, the 365.25. All right. And that's what comes every 4 years. They add 1 day because they're saying that 0.25, that's rectified easy. 1 day. You see? Quick. Boom. I got it. Perfect number. Mapping up. All right. So this is what he came up with. All right. So by his own golden number pattern and accommodated the entirety of any solar year, every defect of the calendar collapsed. All right. And the constant calculations would endure for every generation. So he's saying, I made the perfect calendar that never moves. Not God. All right. This scientist was revealed this information, not Enoch. All right. Not through Jubilees. All right. But who gave him this? Had to have been the devil. All right. Gave him this science of number to calculate things or make it seem that things are perfect. All right. So the calculations would endure every generations. And it says, thus he was able to restore and explain how the calendar itself will never need publish any further change. So they're never going to look at the calendar again. It'll never look at it again because they're like, this guy gave us the perfect calendar from all generations. We never need to look at the calendar again. All right, so this is what we're seeing here, and it's all based on this calculation from this scientist. Continue for us.
All right. This new project of the restoration of the calendar summarized in a small book we forwarded a few years ago to the Christian princes and to the large universities so that this work, which is the business of all, is carried out with the consultation of all. Those having expressed their arrangement to us, as we had sincerely hoped, we have with this consensus arranged a gathering in the holy city to reform the calendar of the very qualified men on the matter whom we had chosen the principal countries of the Christian world a long time before. Those, after having devoted much time and attention to this night work and having discussed between them cycles which they have collected from everywhere, old ones as well as modern ones, and as they had carefully studied the reflections and the opinions to erudite men who wrote on this subject, chose and preferred this cycle of epochs, adding to it elements which, after thorough examination, appeared essential to the realization of a perfect calendar.
All right, so those epochs are, once again, so just to show you what an epoch is, it's the age of the moon on some specific day or calendar. All right, so they're calculating the moon and the days of the moon and the phases of the moon. These are the epochs. So by his calculations of the moons and the epochs, he came out with this perfect number to sync the solar year and the moon, all this together. All right. So it said this new project and restoration of the calendar summarized in a small book were forwarded a few years, all right, ago to Christian princes and to all large universities so that this work, which is the business of all, is carried out with the consultation of all. So they put this to all Christians, got this book and was, hey, this is the scientist. He has the golden number. Check this out. We about to switch all this stuff. All right. So they sent that to all the monarchs that controlled all the kingdoms. All right. And those having expressed their agreement to us, we have decided, sincerely hope we have, with this consensus, arranged a gathering in the holy city. So they gathered together. They confirmed this together to reform the calendar. All right. Qualified men on the matter who they chosen from principal countries of the Christian world a long time before. So Christian scholars all over the place, the best of the best, the monarchs, they all sent their scholars to come check out this golden number, this revelation of the calendar that was sent to them. They all reviewed this information. All right. Those having devoted much time and attention to this night work, having discussed between them the cycles they had collected from everywhere. So they collected cycles and people's calendars and what they think from everywhere, old ones as well as modern day ones. They carefully studied the reflections, the opinions of erudite men who wrote on this subject. They preferred this cycle of epochs, all right? And so they chose and preferred this cycle of epochs, adding to the elements which after thorough examination appeared essential to the realization of a perfect calendar. So they came and they said this calendar is perfect after they took and looked at all the information, all compared. So there's zero excuse here. All right, they didn't look through all the stuff here. They're not just came. They looked through all information except Enoch's. But you know what I'm saying? We gonna keep saying that. But continue for us.
One notes in examining this that it is necessary to rule at the same time on 3 points to restore the celebration of Easter according to rules fixed by the previous Roman pontiffs, particularly Pius and Victor I, who established Easter celebration on Sunday rather than 14 Nisan, favored by the Quartodeciman bishops of Asia, and by the fathers of the councils, in particular those of the first great ecumenical council of Nicaea, May 20th, August 25th, 325 AD, deciding the following rules, namely, first, the precise date of the vernal equinox, then the exact date of the 14th day, the moon which reaches this age the very same day as the equinox, or immediately afterwards. Finally, the first Sunday which follows this same 14th day of the moon.
All right, so here what we're seeing. So they came up with these rules for this, all right? That first, the precise date of the vernal equinox, all right? So they got the precise date of the vernal equinox, then the exact date of the 14th day of the month, all right? So they're looking for that full moon, all right, which is going to happen on the 14th day of the moon month. They're looking for that full moon to then say, hey, all right, on the Sunday following, all right, now they're going to start celebrating, all right, their Passover or their resurrection day. All right, so the exact day, so once again, so the precise date of the vernal equinox, they figure out, then the exact date of the 14th day of the moon, which reaches this age the very same day as the equinox. So they're waiting for the moon, the new moon to arise. Once the new moon arises, they're looking for the full moon, and then from the full moon, they're counting to the Passover or to the resurrection day. All right. Therefore, they care not only that. Oh, okay, continue now.
All right. Therefore, we took care not only that the vernal equinox returns on its former date, of which it has already deviated approximately 10 days since the Nicene Council, apologies, and so that the 14th day of the Paschal moon is giving its rightful place, from which it is now distant 4 days and more, but also that there is founded a methodical and rational system which ensures in the future that the equinox and the 14th day of the moon do not move from their appropriate positions.
All right, so what it is, this thing that they're lining up, they're trying to line up the equinox with the 14th day of the moon. This is why we're seeing this March 21st equinox date that they put there to say that this is going to make sure that the equinox never is too far from this full moon that they're waiting on to calculate the new year. All right. So they're saying if that equinox moves and shifts, then they're not going to be waiting on that 14th of that new moon, and then they won't be able to calculate their Passover. All right. The Passover will be further away, all right, than it's supposed to be. So this is why they did this, so that they're following or chasing this moon calculation, which they don't need to follow the moon. How are they using the sun to then follow this is worse than what Israel was doing. All right, Israel was just like, all right, we'll follow the moon. That's it. They're saying here, we got to follow the equinox, but we got to follow the moon at the same time. And this is what's confusing them, that they need all this great science and stuff to come up with. All right, so continue for us. All right, so we're almost done here.
Then, lest the equinox recede from the 12th calends, April or March 21st in the future, we establish every 4th year to be bisextile, as the custom is, except is in centennial years, which always were bisextile until now. We wish that year 1600 is still bisextile. After that, however, those centennial years that follow are not all bisextile, but in each 400 years. The first 3 centennial years are not bisextile, and the 4th centennial year, however, is bisextile. So the years 1700, 1800, and 1900 will not be bisextile.
All right, so here we go. So bisextile means a leap year. That's what it means. All right, it's not going to have a leap year in it. All right, so it says, once again, so then lest the equinox recede from the calendar, or April, or March 21st in the future, they establish every 4th year to be a leap year, that's what the bisextile is, a leap year. All right, as the custom is, or a leap day, all right, or intercalary day. So it's an additional day or time added to the calendar. That's what a bisextile is. So they're adding every 4th year additional thing to the calendar, all right, except in centennial years, all right, which always were bisextile until now. So they always were a leap year until now, all right. So they wish that the year 1600 is still a leap year. So they want the year 1600 to be still a leap year. And after that, however, those centennial years, all right, let's get centennial. I think that's what term? Centennial, what's that meaning? We go to that.
10 something.
Centennial meaning, I think it's 10. Oh, 100 years, or century. Shit, that's not like, all right, centennial, all right. So 100. So let's go back here. All right, so except in every 100 years, so except in the centennial year, so I guess every 100 year, which were always, so every 100 years they were saying it was always had a leap day or a leap something or additional day added to the calendar. All right. And it says, and the 4th centennial year, all right, so the 400th year, all right, however, is bisextile, so that the year 17, 1800, 1900 will not be bisextile. So we will not have any leap year or day inside of there. All right, so they're trying to configure the calendar and how the leap years is going to go in the future. All right, so they're already seeing 1800 and the 1900s. They're already seeing all these times ahead of them. It says, assuredly, the year 2000, as with our custom, will have a bisextile intercalation. So they're saying at that time, the year 2000, they added a day to there. All right. February will contain 29 days, the same rule of intermittent bisextile. So adding of a time to the calendar, intercalation in each 400-year period will be preserved in perpetuity. So they were showing how they're going to line out all the leap years, everything, to constantly make sure that these numbers and syncs always come back to each other. So they plotted out even the year 2000. This happened in, when did this happen? This was 1581. They already looked towards the year 2000 and knew how we'll calculate this time in the year 2000. All right, so they were doing their due diligence with everything. All right. And there's, once again, bisextiles and all of this, they're just showing how they're going to institute the leap years going forward to make sure that they never come off of this so-called perfect calendar. All right. So continue for us.
February will contain 29 days, and the same rule of intermittent bisextile intercalations in each 400-year period will be preserved in perpetuity. Moreover, so that the 14th day of the Paschal moon is given with precision, and that the age of the moon is presented with precision to the faithful in accordance with the antique use of the church, to take note of it each day with the reading of martyrology. We order that once the golden number is withdrawn from the calendar and substitutes the cycle of the epochs for it, which, thanks to its very precise rules mentioned above for the golden number, makes so that the new moon and the 14th day of the Paschal moon always hold their place.
All right. So this is what they're really trying to hold. They're trying to make sure that the new month and the 14th day of the Passover moon observance, that's always in place. All this number calculation is all to keep this 14th day of the new month on the moon calendar in place. That's what they're following. That's what this golden number is. That's why they got to 365.25 and not 364, because they're still following the moon in their calculations for Passover, all right, for the death of Christ and for his resurrection. All right. And this is where all these things is happening. All right. Continue for us. What, that was it there?
Yeah, no.
Oh, sorry. Yeah. All right. No. There's one more. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And this is seen clearly in the explanation of our calendar. Where are also presented Paschal tables in conformity with the ancient habits of the church, and which make it possible to find more surely and more easily the sacred date of Easter.
All right, so all this calculation was to find that sacred date of Easter. All this 365.2, why your birthday is shifting, everything is because they're trying to follow the Passover on the 14th day of the moon instead of waiting for the equinox and counting 14 days like God had told us. So all this is shifting everything like God told us. And he told us that these people would do this and they would change times and laws. And this is what we're seeing doing. It changed all Christianity and changed the world's times. And they believe they're on the sacred time of God when they're not. All right. We're just going to go and mention what an intercalation is, because this is what they keep talking about, what's it called? Bisextile. Yeah, I didn't want to say my bisextile. I don't want to say bisextile. Yeah, bisextile. All right, yeah. Which means intercalation. So we're just going to clear up this word intercalation, and then we're going to end it.
All right. What is intercalation? This is out of the Britannica Encyclopedia. Intercalation: insertion of days or months into a calendar to bring it into line with the solar year of the seasons.
All right, so intercalation is an insertion of months or days into the calendar, the moon calendar, to align it with the solar calendar. That's why you have leap years, all of that. So once we see a leap year, that means they're not fully on the solar calendar. These intercalations, insertion of days or months into a calendar, is to align it back with a solar year. All right, which is the following of the sun. So these are all to try to align it back with the following of the sun. All right, continue for us.
One example is the periodic inclusion of leap year day, February 29th, in the Gregorian calendar now in general use.
All right, so one example is the inclusion of a leap year day, February 29th. That's how they offset this. Before, what the Jewish people would have did, they said they would have had, 13 months. And this is what happened. I don't know where Sister Nakar is. Sister Nakar, she wanted to hear this one. But yeah, this is where that extra month would come from. Because if you're looking for the moon is off, right? So to get the extra 13th month, they got to add a whole month, all right? That calendar was too off. So now the Pope and them got it to where we only need to add 1 day every 4 years. But on the Jewish one, they had to add That's why everyone's like, there's a secret month. There's a secret 13th month. And everyone's like, what are you talking about 13th month? Because we didn't understand how time is being calculated. That if you're watching the moon and stuff, you need to have an intercalation, which is insertion of days or month in order to align it back with the sun. All right. So when people were following the moon, they're saying there's really 13 months. Why are they saying that? Because they following the moon. The moon is short and they need to add a whole month to catch back up to the solar year. All right. Which is the sun's year cycle. All right. So once again, what did the Pope them do? They said they came up with a science that correct the 30-day shift that we were seeing in Enoch. Their 30-day shift becomes a 1-day shift, and they believe that that is good enough. Why? Because when they're looking at the calculations, they're seeing that, hey, the vernal equinox is going to come, and then it's going to align in the same time with the 14th day of the moon following that, after the full moon. And then they're going to calculate their Passover, which is all incorrect. All right, so we just want to bring that understanding so everyone understands clear what are intercalation days, what are insertion of days and months into the calendar. Why are they there? They're there to align the calendar, all right, a lunar calendar, back with the sun's calendar, a solar calendar. All right, so they had to add extra days. When they were just following the moon was back 10 days each year. So at the 4th year and following a moon calendar, they would need to add 30 days, a whole month to the calendar. They couldn't do that. So now the Pope came up with a science where they need to add only 1 day every 4 years, because every year is 365.25. So that in that 4th year, that's 4 quarters. All right. You just add another day and they back in line with everything. So this is how they came up with this understanding. All right. And we see once again, the Most High told us to follow the sun and the stars, all right, and to deal with 364, and that is a perfect time. All right, so this is where we're seeing these inconsistencies off of, where they're getting the March 21st vernal equinox, which is incorrect. All right, so I hope everyone got a clear understanding, and we're going to go through more next week. So once again, we're going to go to Philippians 4 and 8 and close out.
It's the book of Philippians chapter 4 verse 8. Finally, brethren, whatsoever things are true.
All right, so what's true? All right, it's true. God told us to follow a calendar that's 364 days. All right, it's true that when you divide 364, like this young man did for us, all right, he got 52 weeks exact. When you divide 364 by 7, you get 52 weeks exact. Every year will fall on the same day. Your birthday will fall on the same day. It's true that when you add an extra day to that, when you put it at 365.25, everything is shifted. All right, these things are true. It's true that the Pope changed the calendar, or thought that he got a sacred, perfect calendar, but based it upon the calculations of the moon instead of the full calculation of the sun and the equinox to determine the Passover date. All right, these things are true. This is what we're showing. All right, it's true that all Christendom looked at this calendar and agreed with this calendar at some point in time. It's true that the Catholic influence is over the whole world with this calendar, because everyone's using this calendar in terms of business. All right, continue for us.
One example is the periodic inclusion.
No.
Oh, my apologies here. I'm looking at the document. Whatsoever things are honest.
All right, so what's honest? All right, it's honest that God said what? Keep it 364. This will never disturb a feast. This will never budge everything. You would never need to calculate anything. You would never need to come up with some golden number ratio. All right, because everything comes into perfect conformity with 364 on the proper days that God has arranged for us. All right, these things are honest. It's honest that what? Daniel, all right, warned us, Daniel 7:25, warned us about the changing of times and laws that we see happen through the Pope, through a papal bull, all right, that changes the laws, not only for Christian or the children of Israel, which the warning was again, but to the whole world. This is the first time the whole world is influenced by a calendar change. All right, continue for us.
Whatsoever things are just.
All right, it's just. What's just? It's just what happens to these people under this calendar, because God told them not to use this calendar, that using this calendar, you'll go off. Using this calendar, you'll deal with all types of blood, all types of falsehood under this calendar. All right, so it's just the things that transpire under these calendars. All right, continue for us.
Whatsoever things are pure.
All right, what's pure? 364 days of the year is pure, divided by 7, giving us a pure 52-week cycle. That your birthday, any day you see, or you're like, hey, it happened on this day, it will never shift any year forever. Continue for us.
Whatsoever things are lovely.
It's lovely when you can celebrate and know that, you know what, my birthday is May, all right, on the 5th this year, on a Thursday. Next year is going to be May on the 5th this year, on a Thursday. The next year is going to be May on the 5th this year, on the Thursday. The next year is going to be May on the 5th this year, on the Thursday. The next year is going to be May on the 5th year, on the Thursday. It should always be on the 5th and the Thursday of May if it's on the 5th and the Thursday of May. It should never change, all right? You should never have to wonder. You can't even tell me right now, tell me the last 5 birthdays you had, what days were they on? It's all over the place. You don't know where they at. You just know that day and that month, but you don't know the day of the week. Constantly shifted. Continue for us.
Whatsoever things are of a good report.
All right, it's a good report. What's a good report? When God comes back and he's like, you know what? You're on the proper calendar that he gave to his prophets, the Essenes, that he gave to the Enoch, that you're following the proper feast days. You're calculating the things correct. You're not following the moon or darkness. All right, you're following the light, the Son of God, the calendar of God. All right, continue for us.
If there be any virtue, and if there be any praise, think on these things. Those things which ye have both learned and received and heard and seen in me, do, and the God of peace shall be with you.
All right, so those things you heard and seen us do, the God of peace will be with you. Follow our calendar. We didn't get to it this week, but we're going to get into the dividing of the days, when to tell when the day is, how all these things came into place. So we're going to go into really now the technicality of the calendar and how it's to operate. We were just covering the days and the cycle and how the moon and the sun operate differently. All right, but when we come back, we'll get more in depth on the calendar. All right, so once again, go back over the information, review your notes. There will be a test after next week's. All right, so once again, I want to say peace and blessings, peace and blessings, peace and blessings. We're about to give you guys the intro, and we'll be right back. The outro, and we'll be right back.
Only the children of light is gonna understand this.
For there are 3 philosophical sects among the Jews, the followers of the first of which are the Pharisees, of the second, the Sadducees, and the third sect, and the third sect, and the third sect, which pretends to a severer discipline, are called Essenes. These last are Jews by birth, and Jews by birth,
This is the knowledge of the Essene brotherhood. This is the